That baby ain't mine. Derek Thornton's fist slammed against the hospital wall so hard, the nurse at the station jumped. His face twisted with rage as he towered over Maya Johnson, a 29-year-old black woman clutching her newborn son in a Bronx hospital bed. You really think I'd fall for this? He grabbed the bed rail and shook it. A maid, a nobody. You spread your legs and now you want my money. Maya's arms tightened around her baby. Her voice came out broken. Derek, please, just look at him. I did look. He kicked the chair beside her bed. It crashed against the wall. He looks like every other damn baby. You think I'm stupid? But then morning light fell across the infant's face. Derek froze. His breathing stopped. The eyes, storm gray. His eyes, his dead father's eyes. For one heartbeat, the billionaire's mask shattered. Then he buried it. Coincidence, he spat. Genetics are messy. But Maya had seen it. That crack, that recognition, and everything was about to explode. If this story touches your heart, subscribe to my channel and follow Maya's journey to the very end. Comment which city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. Now let me take you back to where the nightmare began. The words hit Maya like bullets. That baby ain't mine. Derek Thornton didn't whisper. He roared. His voice echoed through the maternity ward of Bronx Community Hospital, turning heads, stopping conversations, making nurses freeze mid-step. Maya sat in her hospital bed, her body still torn from 12 hours of labor, her arms wrapped around a 7-pound miracle she had carried alone for 9 months. Sweat soaked her hospital gown. Her hands shook. But she held her baby like he was the last solid thing in a world that had just caught fire. Derek. Her voice cracked. Not here, please. Not here? He laughed, ugly sharp. You dragged me to this hellhole with your lies, and you want privacy, no. Everyone should hear what kind of woman you really are. A young nurse started walking toward them. An older nurse grabbed her arm and shook her head. Nobody intervened. Nobody questioned the powerful white man in the designer coat screaming at the black woman in the paper gown. I haven't been with anyone else, Maya whispered. You know what happened that night. You were there. Something flickered across Derek's face. Fear. Just for a second. Then it vanished behind a wall of ice. What I know, he said, stepping closer until his shadow fell across her bed, is that you saw a drunk billionaire and you saw a paycheck. You probably planned the whole thing. Get pregnant, play victim, cash out. That's not... Save it. He reached into his coat and pulled out a folded check. $50,000. Take it. Disappear. Never contact me again. He threw the check onto the bed. It landed on Maya's lap like a slap. She stared at it. 50,000. More money than she had ever seen. Enough to change her life. But it wasn't money. It was silence. It was erasure. It was Derek Thornton telling her that her son was worth less than pocket change to a man worth billions. No. Derek's head snapped back. What did you say? I said no. Maya looked up at him, and something in her eyes shifted. The fear was still there, but underneath it, something harder was rising. I'm not taking your money. I'm not disappearing. And I'm not pretending my son doesn't have a father. For 3 seconds, Derek Thornton stood completely still. In boardrooms, that look made executives sweat. In negotiations, it made lawyers stammer. But Maya didn't flinch. You're making the biggest mistake of your life, he said quietly. The quiet was worse than the shouting. You have no idea what I can do to you. I know exactly what you can do. Maya's voice steadied. You can buy lawyers. You can buy headlines. You can buy silence from everyone in this hospital. But you can't buy the truth. And the truth is sleeping right here in my arms. Derek's jaw clenched so tight, Maya could hear his teeth grinding. Look at him, she said. Just look. I already. Look at his eyes. She shifted the baby, turning him so the morning light from the window caught his face. The infant stirred, tiny fists clenching, and then his eyes fluttered open. Storm gray. Not brown like Maya's. Not dark like her mother's or her grandmother's. These eyes were pale and piercing like thunderclouds before a hurricane, like smoke rising from ashes. Derek's eyes. His father's eyes. A color so rare, it might as well have been a fingerprint. Derek stopped breathing. Maya watched his face, watched the recognition hit him like a truck, watched him try to bury it. "Those eyes," she said softly. "Your eyes. You told me once they ran in your family for generations. You said almost nobody has them." Derek's hand gripped the bedrail. His knuckles went white. "Coincidence," he managed. But his voice had changed. The arrogance was cracking. "That doesn't prove anything. You can lie to reporters, Derek. You can lie to your board. You can lie to every person in this hospital." Maya's voice dropped to a whisper that cut deeper than any scream. "But you cannot lie to yourself. You looked at him. You saw it. I watched you see it. You don't know what you're talking about. Then why are you shaking?" Derek looked down at his hands. They were trembling against the bedrail. He released it like it had burned him. "This isn't over," he said, but the threat sounded hollow now, desperate. "You try to go public with this, I will destroy you. I will drag your name through every court and every tabloid until no one believes a word you say." "Then do it!" Maya's chin lifted. "Destroy me. But every time you look in the mirror, you'll see those eyes looking back, and you'll know." Something broke in Derek's expression. Not remorse, he wasn't capable of that yet, but something close to fear. Real fear. The kind that comes when you realize you can't control everything. He turned and walked toward the door. His footsteps echoed in the silent corridor. Every nurse, every patient, every visitor watched him go. At the threshold he stopped, turned halfway back. "You should have taken the money," he said. Then he was gone. Maya held her son against her chest and let the tears come. Not quiet tears, these were sobs that shook her whole body. Sounds she had been holding in for 9 months. She pressed her face against her baby's soft head and wept until she couldn't breathe. "You're not a mistake," she whispered between sobs. "You hear me. You are not a mistake. You are my miracle. My Elijah." The baby stirred. His tiny hand found her finger and gripped it with surprising strength. And Maya made a promise she would keep until her last breath. No matter what Derek Thornton did, no matter how many lawyers he hired or headlines he bought, she would never deny her son. She would never let him feel unwanted. She would fight for him until she had nothing left. She didn't know it yet, but that promise was about to be tested in ways she couldn't imagine. Outside the hospital, Derek's driver waited with the black SUV running. Derek climbed into the back seat without a word. His hands were still shaking. "Where to, sir?" Derek didn't answer. He was staring at the hospital's entrance, where snow had started to fall in soft white curtains. Those eyes. That baby's eyes. His father's eyes. He could still see them. Could still feel the shock that had ripped through his chest when the infant looked up at him. "Sir?" The driver glanced in the rearview mirror. "Are you all right?" "Just drive." Derek's voice was sandpaper. "Take me home." The SUV pulled away from the curb. Derek watched the hospital shrink in the distance, but he couldn't shake the feeling that something was following him, something he couldn't outrun. His phone buzzed. A text from his lawyer, Harrison Cole. "Heard you went to the hospital. We need to talk. Damage control." Derek typed back, "Tomorrow, not now." He shoved the phone into his pocket and leaned his head against the cold window. For 30 years, he had built his life on control. He controlled his company. He controlled his image. He controlled every person who entered his orbit. When problems arose, he threw money at them until they disappeared. But those eyes wouldn't disappear. He closed his own eyes and tried to think of something else. Quarterly reports, merger negotiations, the vacation home in Aspen that needed repairs. Anything but the image of that baby staring up at him with a color that shouldn't exist by accident. It didn't work. His mind dragged him backward against his will to a night 18 months ago. A winter gala. Too much bourbon. And a maid who had looked at him like he was human. He had tried so hard to forget that night. He had convinced himself it never happened, that the alcohol had blurred his judgment, that whatever had occurred between him and Maya Johnson was nothing more than a fever dream. But dreams don't get pregnant. The SUV pulled up to his penthouse building. Derek stepped out into the falling snow and stood there for a long moment, letting the cold bite his face. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out the check Maya had rejected. $50,000. More money than most people saw in a year. She could have taken it and walked away. She could have made her life easier. But she had torn it up. No, not torn it up. She had thrown it back at him like it was worthless. No one had ever done that before. Derek stared at the check, then slowly, deliberately ripped it in half, then in quarters. He let the pieces fall onto the wet sidewalk where the snow immediately began to bury them. But as he walked into his building, he knew the truth couldn't be buried so easily. Those eyes were going to haunt him. And somewhere in the back of his mind, a voice that sounded like his dead father whispered, "Weakness makes you prey, boy. You're being weak." Derek clenched his jaw and stepped into the elevator. He wasn't weak, he was in control. He would handle this like he handled everything else. He had no idea how wrong he was. Back in the hospital, Maya finally stopped crying. Her arms ached from holding Elijah so tightly. Her whole body ached really from labor, from stress, from the emotional hurricane that had just torn through her room. But she couldn't let go of him, couldn't stop looking at his face. His eyes were closed now, his breathing slow and peaceful. He had no idea what had just happened, no idea that his father had stood 5 feet away and denied his existence, no idea that his mother had just refused $50,000 to protect his dignity. "Sleep, baby," Maya whispered. "Mama's got you." A soft knock at the door made her tense. Had Derek come back? Had he sent someone? But it was just a nurse, the older one who had stopped her colleague from intervening earlier. She was a black woman in her 50s, with tired eyes and gentle hands. "You okay, honey?" The nurse came to the bedside and checked Maya's vitals. That was something. "I'm fine." Maya's voice was flat. The nurse looked at her for a long moment. "No, you're not, but you will be." She glanced at Elijah. "Beautiful baby, and those eyes, Lord, I've never seen anything like them." Maya's throat tightened. "They're his father's eyes." "I know." The nurse lowered her voice. "Half the staff knows who that man was. Derek Thornton. Face is always in the news." She shook her head. "Rich folks think they can buy their way out of anything." "He offered me $50,000 to disappear." The nurse's eyebrows rose. "And you said no." "I said no." For a moment, the nurse just looked at her. Then she smiled, a real smile full of warmth and something like respect. "Good for you, honey. Good for you." She finished checking Maya's vitals and turned to leave. At the door, she paused. "You're going to need help, you know. Raising a baby alone, especially with a man like that fighting you. It's not easy." "I know. There's a church on 147th Street in the Bronx. Got a food pantry, support groups, people who actually give a damn. Ask for Miss Loretta. Tell her Ruby sent you." Maya nodded. "Thank you." The nurse. Ruby gave her one last look. "That man in the fancy coat, he's used to winning. But I've seen a lot of mothers come through these doors, and I can tell you something ain't nothing more powerful than a mama fighting for her baby. You remember that." Then she was gone. Maya looked down at Elijah. His tiny chest rose and fell. His fingers curled around nothing, dreaming whatever babies dream about. "You hear that?" she whispered. "Ain't nothing more powerful than your mama. So don't you worry. We're going to be okay." But even as she said it, she knew the battle was just beginning. 3 days later, Maya brought Elijah home to her apartment in the Bronx. Home was a generous word for it. 2 rooms above a bodega with walls so thin she could hear her neighbors arguing in Spanish, and a heating system that worked maybe half the time. The carpet was stained. The windows were drafty. The refrigerator made a sound like a dying animal every time it cycled on. But it was hers. And now, it was Elijah's too. "Welcome home, baby boy." Maya laid him in the second-hand crib her cousin had donated. "It's not much, but it's ours." Elijah yawned and closed his eyes. Maya stood there watching him for a long time. The reality of her situation was starting to sink in. She had no job. She had been fired from the Thornton estate the day Derek threw her out. She had maybe $200 in her bank account. She had no family except a cousin in Queens who had her own problems. And she had a newborn who needed diapers and formula and doctor visits and 1,000 other things she couldn't afford. What had she been thinking turning down $50,000? She pushed the thought away. She had been thinking about her son, about his dignity, about not teaching him that his existence had a price tag. But dignity didn't pay rent. Her phone buzzed. A text from her landlord. "Rent's due in 2 weeks. Don't be late again." Maya closed her eyes and took a deep breath. Then another. "One day at a time," she said out loud. "One day at a time." The first week was a blur of exhaustion and terror. Elijah was what the pediatrician politely called a challenging baby. He screamed for hours. He refused to sleep for more than 45 minutes at a time. He spit up formula like it was poison. And every time Maya finally got him settled, something would set him off again. A car alarm outside a door slamming downstairs, nothing at all. By day 3, Maya hadn't slept more than 2 hours total. Her eyes were red. Her hands were shaking. She had cried more times than she could count in the shower over the kitchen sink, sitting on the floor of the bathroom at 3 a.m., while Elijah wailed in the next room. "Please," she sobbed into her hands. "Please, God, I don't know what I'm doing. Help me." No answer came. Just Elijah's endless crying and the sound of traffic outside, and the crushing weight of loneliness pressing down on her chest. On day 5, she ran out of formula. It was 10 p.m. The stores were closed. Her neighbors weren't answering their doors, and Elijah was screaming with a hunger she couldn't satisfy. Maya stood in her kitchen staring at the empty formula container and felt something inside her break. "I can't do this," she whispered. "I can't. I'm not strong enough." She thought about Derek's check. $50,000. It would be so easy. She could call him. Tell him she had changed her mind. Take the money and at least be able to feed her baby. Her hand actually reached for her phone. Then Elijah's cry changed. It went from angry to desperate, a sound so full of need that it cut through Maya's despair like a knife. She looked at him. Really looked. Those storm-gray eyes were open, staring at her through tears. Not accusing, not demanding, just trusting. This tiny person trusted her completely, absolutely, without reservation. He didn't care that she was poor. He didn't care that she was exhausted. He didn't care that the whole world seemed designed to break her. He just knew that she was his mother, and that was enough. Maya picked him up, held him close, let his cries fill her ears and his warmth fill her arms. "I'm sorry, baby," she said. "Mama's not giving up, I promise. I'm not giving up." She remembered what Ruby, the nurse, had said. The church on 147th Street. Miss Loretta. Maya bundled Elijah up, grabbed her coat, and walked out into the freezing January night. The church was a small brick building sandwiched between a laundromat and a check-cashing place. A faded sign over the door read, "Greater Hope Community Church." Most of the windows were dark, but a light glowed from somewhere in the back. Maya pushed through the front door, praying it was unlocked. It was. Inside, the sanctuary was empty. Wooden pews worn smooth by decades of worship. A simple cross on the wall, the smell of old hymnals and lemon polish. "Hello?" Maya's voice echoed. "Is anyone here?" Footsteps. Then a woman appeared from a side door. She was tall, nearly 6 feet, with skin like polished mahogany, and silver hair pulled back in a bun. Her eyes were sharp, assessing, but there was warmth underneath. She wore a simple purple dress and carried herself like a queen who had long ago stopped caring about her crown. "Food pantry's closed for the night," the woman said. "We open tomorrow at—" She stopped. Her gaze had fallen on Elijah, who was still crying weakly in Maya's arms. "How old?" "3 weeks." The woman's expression softened. "And when did you last eat?" Maya tried to remember. I'm not sure." The woman walked toward them, her footsteps steady and sure. "What's his name?" "Elijah." "Elijah." The woman smiled. "My God has answered. That's a powerful name for a little one." She reached out and touched Elijah's cheek. Instantly, miraculously, he stopped crying. His gray eyes fixed on her face with sudden fascination. "Come with me," the woman said. "I've got formula in the back, and you're going to eat something too. I can see your bones through that coat." "I can't. I don't have any money." "Did I ask for money?" The woman's voice was gentle but firm. "My name is Loretta. Most people call me Miss Loretta, and you look like you're about 5 minutes from collapsing, so stop arguing and follow me." Maya wanted to protest. She wanted to maintain her pride, insist that she was fine, that she could handle this on her own. But her body was shaking. Her baby was hungry. And this woman was the first person in weeks who had looked at her with something other than pity or contempt. "Thank you," Maya whispered. "Thank you so much." Miss Loretta led her to a small kitchen behind the sanctuary. While Maya fed Elijah, the older woman heated up leftover chicken and rice and set it in front of her with a look that said, "Eat or else." Maya ate. She hadn't realized how hungry she was until the first bite hit her tongue. Then she couldn't stop. She devoured everything: the chicken, the rice, a piece of cornbread that appeared from nowhere, a glass of sweet tea that tasted like heaven. Miss Loretta watched her with knowing eyes. When Maya finally pushed back from the table, the older woman spoke. "Now, you want to tell me why you're wandering around at night with a newborn looking like the world just ended?" Maya opened her mouth to lie, to give some vague excuse, to protect whatever shred of dignity she had left. But Miss Loretta's gaze was like a searchlight. There was no hiding from it. So Maya told the truth. All of it. The job at the Thornton estate. The night of the gala. Derek's loneliness and his bourbon and his promises. The pregnancy. The rejection. The check. The hospital. The denial. The storm-gray eyes. She talked until her voice was raw and her cheeks were wet with tears she hadn't felt falling. When she finished, the kitchen was silent except for Elijah's soft breathing and the hum of the refrigerator. Miss Loretta's expression hadn't changed throughout the story. No gasps, no judgment, just steady, patient attention. Finally, she spoke. "That man looked at your baby and still denied him." Maya nodded. "He saw the eyes." "I know he did." For just a second, he recognized them. Then he buried it. Men like him always do. Miss Loretta leaned back in her chair. They think money makes them God. Think they can decide what's true and what isn't. But truth doesn't bow to money, child. Truth doesn't care about power. Truth just is. "What am I supposed to do?" Maya asked. "He said he'd destroy me if I went public. He has lawyers, he has the media, he has everything." "He has fear," Miss Loretta said. "That's what he has. A man who wasn't afraid wouldn't have come to that hospital, wouldn't have offered you money, wouldn't have threatened you. He's scared, child. Scared of what that baby means. Scared of what those eyes prove." Maya stared at her. "You really think so?" "I know so." I've lived 72 years on this earth. I've seen powerful men crumble and weak ones rise. And I can tell you this, the ones who shout the loudest are the ones with the most to hide. Miss Loretta reached across the table and took Maya's hand. Her grip was warm and strong. "You're not alone anymore," she said. "You hear me? Whatever you need, food, diapers, someone to talk to you, come here. This church has seen harder times than whatever Derek Thornton can throw at us." Maya's throat tightened. "Why? You don't even know me." "I know enough." Miss Loretta's eyes were fierce. "I know you're a mother who loves her child. I know you refused money to protect his dignity. I know you walked through the cold with an empty stomach because you wouldn't give up." She squeezed Maya's hand. "That's not nothing, child. That's everything." For the first time in weeks, Maya felt something other than fear and exhaustion. She felt hope. That night, Maya slept at the church. Miss Loretta set up a cot in a back room and insisted she stay until morning. "You're no good to that baby if you collapse," she said. "Rest. I'll keep an eye on him." Maya wanted to argue. She had never let anyone else watch Elijah, not even for a minute. But her body was screaming for sleep, and something about Miss Loretta made her trust in a way she hadn't trusted anyone since her mother died. She lay down on the cot and was asleep before her head hit the pillow. She dreamed of her mother. Lorraine Johnson stood in a field of wildflowers, healthy and whole the way she had looked before the cancer ate her from the inside out. She was smiling. "Mama." Maya reached for her. "Mama, I miss you so much." "I know, baby girl." Lorraine's voice was exactly as Maya remembered, warm, strong, full of love. "I know, but I'm so proud of you." "I don't know what I'm doing. I'm so scared." "Being scared doesn't mean you're weak." Lorraine took her daughter's hands. "It means you're brave enough to face something hard, and you are facing it, baby. You're fighting for that boy with everything you have." "What if it's not enough?" Lorraine smiled. "Love is always enough. Remember that. When everything else fails, when the world tries to break you, love is always enough." Maya woke with tears on her face and the first rays of sunlight streaming through the window. For a moment, she lay still, holding on to the dream. Her mother's voice, her mother's smile, her mother's faith in her. Then she heard Elijah crying in the next room, and she rose to meet another day. 2 weeks passed, then 3. Maya found a rhythm. It wasn't easy. Nothing about her life was easy, but she found a way to survive. Miss Loretta connected her with services she hadn't known existed. Food stamps, emergency assistance, a clinic that offered free pediatric care, a church program that provided diapers and formula for mothers in need. She went back to her old diner job and begged for shifts. The manager, a man named Carlos, who remembered her from before, agreed to give her part-time work. "It's not much," he warned. "Maybe 20 hours a week. I'll take it." She arranged for Miss Loretta to watch Elijah during her shifts. It wasn't ideal, she hated being away from him, but it was necessary. And slowly, painfully, she started to rebuild. The gossip was the hardest part. Word had spread through the neighborhood. The maid who claimed a billionaire was her baby's father. The woman who had refused $50,000. The crazy girl who thought she could fight Derek Thornton. People talked. They always talked. "She's lying. You know she is. A man like that would never touch someone like her. I heard she's just trying to get money. Classic gold digger. She should have taken the check. Now she's got nothing." Maya heard the whispers at the diner. She felt the stares when she walked down the street with Elijah's stroller. She saw the judgment in the eyes of women who didn't know anything about her life but had already decided who she was. It hurt. Every time. But she kept her head high and her mouth shut. What good would defending herself do? People believed what they wanted to believe. The only thing that mattered was what she knew, what Elijah would one day know, the truth. Then 7 weeks after the hospital confrontation, everything changed. It was a Saturday afternoon. Maya was at the church helping Miss Loretta sort donations in the food pantry. Elijah was asleep in a portable crib nearby, his gray eyes hidden beneath tiny lids. Maya's phone buzzed. A notification from a news app she had forgotten to delete. Derek Thornton seen with mystery woman at Manhattan Gala. She shouldn't have looked. She knew she shouldn't have looked. But her fingers moved before her brain could stop them. The article was full of photos. Derek in a tuxedo, his arm around a blonde woman in a red dress. Derek laughing with investors. Derek giving a speech about innovation and the future of technology. He looked happy, confident, completely unbothered by the woman in the Bronx raising his child alone. Maya's stomach churned. She threw the phone onto the table like it had bitten her. "What is it?" Miss Loretta looked up from the canned goods she was sorting. "Nothing. It's nothing." But Miss Loretta wasn't fooled. She walked over, picked up the phone and looked at the screen. Her expression hardened. "This man," she said quietly, "he's living his life like you don't exist." "I know." "Like your son don't exist." "I know." Miss Loretta set the phone down. "How does that make you feel?" Maya laughed bitterly. "How do you think it makes me feel he's at galas with models while I'm counting pennies for formula? He's giving speeches about the future while I'm wondering how I'll pay rent next month. Her voice cracked. "He's forgotten we exist, or he's pretending we don't. Either way, it's the same." Miss Loretta was silent for a long moment. Then she walked over to the crib and looked down at Elijah. "Look at those eyes," she said softly. "Look at them." Maya came to stand beside her. Elijah had woken up. He was staring at the ceiling with those storm-gray eyes making soft cooing sounds. "He can pretend all he wants," Miss Loretta said. "He can go to 100 galas. He can date 1,000 women, but every time he looks in the mirror he sees those eyes, and he knows." "What good does that do me?" "It does you all the good in the world, child." Miss Loretta turned to face her. "Because truth is patient. Truth waits. And one day, maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next month, but one day truth rises. And when it does, all the money in the world won't save him from it." Maya wanted to believe her. She desperately wanted to believe her. But right now, looking at photos of Derek Thornton living his best life while she struggled to survive faith, felt very far away. That night, after putting Elijah to sleep, Maya sat at her tiny kitchen table and made a decision. She was going to document everything. She pulled out a notebook, a cheap one from the dollar store, and started writing. The night of the gala, the pregnancy, the rejection, the hospital confrontation, every date, every detail, every word she could remember. If Derek Thornton wanted to pretend she didn't exist, fine. But one day when Elijah was old enough to ask questions, she would have answers. She would have proof. She would have a record of what his father had done. And maybe, just maybe, that record would be useful for something else too. Maya wrote until her hand cramped. Then she kept writing. She wrote until 2 a.m., until the words blurred together and her eyes wouldn't stay open. When she finally put down the pen, she had filled 37 pages. She hid the notebook under her mattress and fell into bed. Tomorrow would be another battle. Another day of whispers and judgment and struggling to survive. But tonight she had done something for herself. Something for Elijah. Something that said, "We exist. We matter." And no amount of money can make that untrue. What Maya didn't know was that 3 miles away in a Manhattan penthouse, Derek Thornton was wide awake. He stood at his window staring at the city lights, a glass of bourbon untouched in his hand. The gala had been a disaster. Oh, everyone had smiled and clapped and told him how brilliant he was. The blonde woman, some socialite whose name he had already forgotten, had hung on his arm and laughed at his jokes. But the whole time he had felt nothing. No. That wasn't true. He had felt something. He had felt those eyes watching him. Every time a camera flashed, he thought of the baby in the hospital. Every time someone congratulated him on his success, he heard Maya's voice saying, "You can lie to the world, But you cannot lie to yourself. He had tried to drown it out. He had drunk champagne and told stories and pretended to be the man everyone thought he was. But now, alone in his penthouse, the pretense was impossible. He walked to his desk and opened a drawer. Inside was a single photograph, one he had never shown anyone. It showed a boy about 5 years old with pale skin and storm-gray eyes. Derek at that age, looking at the camera with the same expression he had seen on Elijah's face in the hospital. "Stop thinking about it," he muttered to himself. "It's not yours. She's lying. Women like her always lie." But the photograph stared back at him. And the eyes, his father's eyes, his son's eyes, accused him in silence. Derek slammed the drawer shut. He poured his bourbon down the sink and went to bed. But sleep, when it came, brought only nightmares. A baby crying. A woman's voice saying, "You can't run from this." Storm-gray eyes everywhere he looked, following him, judging him, refusing to let him forget. He woke at 4 a.m. drenched in sweat and didn't sleep again. 3 days later, Maya's phone buzzed with an unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Unknown numbers were usually spam or bill collectors, or worse, but something made her swipe to accept. "Hello. Miss Johnson." A man's voice, professional, cold. "This is Harrison Cole. I represent Derek Thornton." Maya's blood went ice cold. "I have nothing to say to you. I understand your reluctance, but Mr. Thornton has asked me to reach out with a revised offer. I already told him no. The offer has changed significantly." Harrison's voice was smooth as silk. $100,000. In exchange for your silence regarding any alleged relationship between yourself and Mr. Thornton. You would also sign away any claim to paternity or child support. It's a very generous offer, Miss Johnson. Most women in your position would— Stop. Maya's voice shook with rage. Stop right there. Excuse me. You tell Derek Thornton something for me. She gripped the phone so hard her knuckles whitened. You tell him my son is not for sale. You tell him no amount of money will make me pretend Elijah doesn't have a father. You tell him, Miss Johnson, I really think you should consider— I'm not finished. Maya's voice rose. You tell him that one day he's going to have to face the truth. One day Elijah is going to be old enough to ask questions. And when that day comes, I will tell him everything. I will tell him about the check his father threw at me. I will tell him about the lawyer who called his existence a problem to be solved. I will tell him that his father had a chance to be a man, and he chose to be a coward. You tell him that. Silence on the other end. Then quietly, I'll pass along the message. The line went dead. Maya stood in her kitchen, shaking her heart, pounding so hard she could feel it in her throat. $100,000. She had just turned down $100,000. Was she insane? Maybe. But as she looked at Elijah, sleeping peacefully in his crib, she knew she had done the right thing. Some things couldn't be bought, and her son's dignity was one of them. What Maya didn't know was that Harrison Cole called Derek immediately after. She refused. Derek was in his office. He had been staring at reports he couldn't focus on for the past 3 hours. What? She refused the $100,000, called you a coward, said she's going to tell the child everything when he's old enough. Derek's hand tightened around his phone. She's bluffing. I don't think she is. Harrison's voice was careful. I've been doing this a long time, Derek. I know when people are performing and when they're genuine. She's not performing. She believes what she's saying. She's delusional. Maybe. Or maybe she's telling the truth. Derek's jaw clenched. What are you saying? I'm saying you might want to consider a different approach. If she goes public, she won't. If she does, Harrison continued, it could be damaging. Those eyes, Derek. If photos get out, people are going to see what I saw in that hospital. They're going to ask questions. Derek slammed his hand on the desk. Then make sure photos don't get out. How do you suggest I do that? She lives in the Bronx. We can't exactly post security outside her apartment." "Figure it out." Derek's voice was ice. "That's what I pay you for." He hung up before Harrison could respond. For a long time, Derek sat in silence. His office felt suffocating. The walls were too close. The air was too thick. He opened his desk drawer again, looked at the photograph of himself at 5 years old. Those eyes. Those damn eyes. "You're not mine," he whispered. But the words sounded hollow, desperate, even to his own ears. Somewhere in the Bronx, a baby with his eyes was sleeping soundly in his mother's arms. And Derek Thornton, for all his billions, couldn't buy himself a moment's peace. The next morning, Maya woke to pounding on her door. She shot up in bed, heart racing. Elijah started crying in his crib. The pounding continued, loud, insistent, aggressive. "Who is it?" she called, grabbing a robe. No answer. Just more pounding. Maya's hands shook as she approached the door. She looked through the peephole and felt her stomach drop. 2 men in suits. One held a large manila envelope. "Maya Johnson," one of them called. "We need you to sign for some documents." Documents. From Derek's lawyer, no doubt. More threats, more attempts to silence her. "I'm not signing anything," she shouted through the door. "Go away." "Ma'am, these are legal documents. If you refuse to accept them, we'll be forced to—" "I said go away." Silence. Then quietly the sound of paper sliding under her door. Maya stared at the envelope on her floor. Her hands trembled as she picked it up. Inside were documents, dense legal language she could barely understand, but one phrase jumped out at her clear as day. Petition for DNA testing. Derek Thornton was suing for a paternity test. Maya's knees gave out. She slid down the wall, the documents clutched in her hands while Elijah wailed in the background. He was coming for her. The battle had finally begun. To be continued. Maya's hands wouldn't stop shaking. She sat on her kitchen floor for what felt like hours, the legal documents spread around her like fallen leaves. Elijah had cried himself back to sleep, but she couldn't move, couldn't think, couldn't breathe. Derek Thornton was demanding a DNA test. The same man who had screamed, "That baby ain't mine," in front of an entire hospital ward. The same man who had thrown money at her to disappear. The same man who had called her a liar, a schemer, a nobody. Now he wanted proof. Maya read the documents again, her eyes catching on phrases that made her stomach turn. Petition for genetic testing. Determination of biological paternity. Failure to comply may result in court-ordered enforcement. She grabbed her phone and called the only person she trusted. Miss Loretta answered on the second ring. "Child, it's 7 in the morning. What's wrong?" "He's suing me." Maya's voice broke. "Derek, he's demanding a DNA test." Silence on the other end. Then, "I'm on my way." 20 minutes later, Miss Loretta sat across from Maya at the kitchen table, reading the documents with reading glasses perched on her nose. Her expression grew darker with each page. "This is harassment," she finally said. "Pure and simple." "I don't understand." Maya pressed her palms against her eyes. "He denied Elijah for months. He offered me money to disappear. Why would he want a test now?" "Because he's scared." Miss Loretta set the papers down. "Think about it. You refused his money, twice. You didn't go away like he expected. Now he's worried you might go public, and if you do, those eyes are going to be all the proof anyone needs. So he wants to control the narrative." "Exactly. If he orders the test himself, he controls when it happens, where it happens, what the results say." Maya's blood went cold. "You think he'd fake the results?" "Men like Derek Thornton fake whatever they need to fake." Miss Loretta's voice was hard. "But here's the thing, child. He can't fake DNA. Not really. Not if you have your own people watching." "I don't have people. I don't have lawyers. I don't have anything." Miss Loretta reached across the table and gripped Maya's hand. "You have me. And I know someone who might be able to help." That afternoon, Maya found herself sitting in a cramped office in downtown Manhattan. The nameplate on the desk read, "Denise Crawford, Attorney at Law." Denise was a black woman in her early 40s, with close-cropped natural hair and eyes that had seen too much injustice to be surprised by any of it. She had agreed to meet Maya as a favor to Miss Loretta, who had apparently helped her mother through a difficult time years ago. "So, let me get this straight," Denise said, flipping through the documents. "Derek Thornton. The Derek Thornton got you pregnant while you were working as his maid, denied the baby at birth, offered you hush money twice, and is now suing for a paternity test." "That's right." "And you have no lawyer, no resources, and no way to fight back." "That's also right." Denise leaned back in her chair and studied Maya for a long moment. "Why didn't you take the money?" "Because my son isn't for sale." Something shifted in Denise's expression. Respect, maybe, or recognition. "You know this is going to be ugly," she said. "Thornton has an army of lawyers. He has media connections. He can drag this out for years and bury you in legal fees." "I know. You could lose everything." "I don't have anything to lose." Maya's voice was steady. "Except my son, and I won't lose him." Denise was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded. "Okay, I'll take your case. Pro bono." Maya blinked. "What? Pro bono? It means free." "I know what it means. I just don't understand why you would—" "Because I've watched men like Derek Thornton destroy women like you my entire career." Denise's jaw tightened. They think money makes them untouchable. They think power means they can use people and throw them away. Someone needs to teach them otherwise. Maya felt tears prick her eyes. "I don't know how to thank you." "Don't thank me yet." Denise pulled out a legal pad. "We've got a lot of work to do, and the first thing I need is the truth, all of it. Every detail, no matter how uncomfortable. Can you do that?" Maya took a deep breath. "Yes." "Then let's begin." 3 hours later, Maya had told Denise everything. The night of the gala, Derek's loneliness and his bourbon, the promises he made, the morning after when he pretended nothing had happened, the rejection when she told him she was pregnant, the hospital confrontation, the money she refused. Denise took notes without interrupting. When Maya finished, the lawyer set down her pen and looked at her with something close to admiration. "You've been through hell," Denise said quietly. "And you're still standing. That takes strength most people don't have." "I don't feel strong. I feel terrified." "Good. Terror keeps you sharp." Denise stood and walked to her window. "Here's what's going to happen. We're going to agree to the DNA test. No fighting, no stalling." "What? Why?" "Because we want the test." Denise turned to face her. "Think about it. Right now, Derek can claim you're lying. He can say Elijah might be anyone's child. But once that test comes back positive, and it will, he loses his biggest weapon. He can't deny paternity anymore. Everything changes." Maya's heart pounded. "And if he tries to tamper with the results?" "He won't. Because I'm going to make sure we use an independent lab with witnesses on both sides. He can have his lawyers present. We'll have ours. Everything will be documented, certified, and impossible to dispute." "You really think this will work?" Denise smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. It was the smile of a fighter who had just spotted her opponent's weakness. "I think Derek Thornton just made the biggest mistake of his life. He asked for proof. We're going to give it to him." The DNA test was scheduled for 3 weeks later. Maya spent those weeks in a fog of anxiety and preparation. Denise coached her on what to expect, what to say, what not to say. Miss Loretta kept her fed and sane, and Elijah, blissfully unaware of the storm swirling around him, continued to grow and smile and reach for her with his tiny hands. The night before the test, Maya couldn't sleep. She lay in bed staring at the ceiling, listening to Elijah's soft breathing in the crib beside her. In 12 hours, everything would change. Either Derek would finally be forced to acknowledge his son, or he would find some way to wriggle out of responsibility again. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "You should have taken the money." Maya's blood turned to ice. Another text. "It's not too late. Walk away. Protect yourself." Then a third. "We know where you live." Maya's hands shook so badly she almost dropped the phone. She wanted to call the police. She wanted to call Denise. She wanted to grab Elijah and run as far as she could. Instead, she took a screenshot of every message and forwarded them to her lawyer. Then she typed a response. "I'm not afraid of you." She was lying. She was terrified. But she had made a promise to her son, and she intended to keep it. The morning of the test, Maya dressed Elijah in his nicest outfit, a little blue romper Miss Loretta had bought him. She brushed her own hair, put on the one decent dress she owned, and looked at herself in the mirror. "You can do this," she whispered. "You can do this." Denise met her outside the testing facility, a neutral medical building in Midtown Manhattan. The lawyer looked sharp in a gray suit, her expression all business. "How are you holding up?" "I got threatening texts last night." Denise's eyes narrowed. "Did you save them?" "Yes." "Good. We'll deal with that later. Right now, focus on one thing: getting through this test. Don't let them see you sweat." Maya nodded, but her heart was hammering so hard she was sure everyone could hear it. They walked inside together. The waiting room was sterile and cold. Maya sat with Elijah on her lap, Denise beside her, and tried not to think about what was coming. 10 minutes later, the door opened. Derek Thornton walked in. He was flanked by 2 lawyers in expensive suits, his expression perfectly composed. He looked like he was walking into a board meeting, not a paternity test. His eyes swept the room without acknowledging Maya's presence. But then Elijah made a sound. A little coo. A baby noise. Derek's gaze snapped to the child. For just a second, a fraction of a second, his composure cracked. Maya saw it. The recognition. The fear. Then the mask slammed back down. "Mr. Thornton?" Denise stood and extended her hand. "Thank you for agreeing to use an independent facility." Derek's lead lawyer stepped forward, ignoring her hand. "Let's dispense with pleasantries. We're here to settle this matter once and for all." "On that we agree." A technician called them back. The test itself was simple. A swab inside Elijah's cheek, another inside Derek's. It took less than 5 minutes. But those 5 minutes felt like hours. Maya watched Derek's face as the technician collected his sample. He wouldn't look at her. Wouldn't look at Elijah. He stared straight ahead, his jaw tight, his hands clenched at his sides. He was scared. She could see it now. Underneath all the arrogance and the lawyers and the expensive suits, Derek Thornton was absolutely terrified. Good. After the test, Derek's team swept out without a word. Maya sat in the waiting room, Elijah in her arms, and let out a breath she felt like she had been holding for months. "Now what?" she asked Denise. "Now we wait. Results take about a week." "A week. I know it feels like forever, but you've waited this long. You can wait a little longer." Maya looked down at Elijah. His storm gray eyes blinked up at her, trusting and calm. "He looked at him," she said quietly. "During the test." "Derek." He looked at Elijah for just a second. "What did you see?" Maya paused. "I saw a man who already knows the truth. He's just not ready to admit it." Denise nodded slowly. "Then these results are going to force his hand. One way or another, Derek Thornton is about to face something he can't buy his way out of." The week that followed was the longest of Maya's life. She went through the motions, working at the diner, caring for Elijah, trying to sleep, but her mind was always on the test. Every time her phone buzzed, her heart stopped. Every time she checked her email, her hands shook. Denise had told her the results would come to both parties simultaneously. No one would know before the other. It was supposed to be fair, but nothing about this situation felt fair. On day 4, Maya was changing Elijah's diaper when her phone rang. Denise's number. "The results are in early," the lawyer said. "They want to do a joint reading tomorrow morning. Both parties present." Maya's throat closed. "Tomorrow. Can you be at my office by 9? Yes, I'll be there." She hung up and stood frozen in her apartment, Elijah squirming on the changing table in front of her. Tomorrow, everything would change. That night, Maya wrote another letter in her journal. Her hand was steadier now, her words more certain. "My dearest Elijah, by the time you read this, you'll know the truth about your father. Whatever happens tomorrow, I want you to know that I never doubted. Not for 1 second. You are his son. You have his eyes, his blood, his history. And nothing, no test, no lawyer, no amount of money can change that. I love you more than life itself, and I will fight for you until my last breath. Always and forever, Mama." She closed the journal and held her son until he fell asleep. Tomorrow was coming, and she was ready. The reading took place in Denise's office at 9 a.m. sharp. Maya arrived early, her nerves raw. Elijah bundled in a carrier against her chest. Miss Loretta had insisted on coming too, and she sat in the corner like a guardian angel, her presence steady and reassuring. Derek's team arrived at exactly 9. The billionaire himself walked in last, his face unreadable. He was wearing a suit that probably cost more than Maya's yearly rent. His lawyer, Harrison Cole, carried a sealed envelope. So did Denise. "Before we begin," Harrison said, "I want to remind everyone that these results are legally binding. Once opened, they cannot be contested or disputed." "We understand," Denise replied. "Do you?" Harrison's jaw tightened. He didn't answer. "Then let's proceed." Denise turned to Maya. "Would you like to do the honors?" Maya's hands trembled as she took her envelope. Across the room, Harrison handed Derek his. For a long moment, no one moved. Then Derek spoke. His voice was flat, controlled. "Open them." Maya tore her envelope at the same time Derek tore his. She pulled out the single sheet of paper inside and read the words that would change everything. Probability of paternity 99.97%. The room went silent. Maya read the number again, then again. Her vision blurred with tears. 99.97%. It was a scientific certainty. Derek Thornton was Elijah's father. She looked up. Derek was staring at his own paper, his face pale, his hand trembling almost imperceptibly. "Well," Denise said, her voice steady, "I believe this settles the question." Harrison looked like he had swallowed something bitter. "These results will need to be verified." "They've already been verified, by an independent lab, with witnesses from both parties." Denise's voice was ice. "There's nothing to contest, Mr. Cole. Your client is the father. The DNA proves it." Derek still hadn't spoken. He was staring at the paper in his hands like it contained his death sentence. Maya rose from her chair. She crossed the room until she was standing directly in front of him. "Look at me," she said. He didn't move. "Look at me, Derek." Slowly, reluctantly, he raised his eyes. "This is your son." Maya's voice shook with emotion. "Your blood, your responsibility. You can't deny him anymore. You can't pay him off or make him disappear. He exists. He's real. And he deserves better than a father who only acknowledges him when a piece of paper forces him to." Derek's jaw worked. She could see the muscles clenching, the veins in his neck pulsing. "What do you want from me?" he finally asked. "I want you to be a father." Maya felt tears streaming down her face. "I want you to look at your son and see something other than a problem to solve. I want you to take responsibility for what you did. Is that really too much to ask?" Derek stared at her. Then slowly his gaze dropped to Elijah, who had woken up and was making soft sounds against Maya's chest. Those storm gray eyes. His eyes blinked up at him. Something in Derek's face changed. The mask slipped, just for a moment. "I need time," he said hoarsely, "to process this." Maya shook her head. "You've had 9 months to process this. You've had every day since Elijah was born. Time isn't what you need, Derek. Courage is." She turned and walked back to her chair, leaving Derek standing alone in the middle of the room. Harrison stepped forward. "We'll be in touch regarding financial arrangements, child support, trust funds, whatever is appropriate." "This isn't about money," Maya snapped. "Everything is about money, Miss Johnson." "Then you don't understand anything at all." The meeting ended shortly after. Derek's team filed out without another word, leaving Maya Denise and Miss Loretta alone in the office. "You did it," Denise smiled. "You actually did it." "It doesn't feel like victory." Maya slumped in her chair. "It feels like the beginning of something even harder." "That's because it is." Miss Loretta walked over and placed a hand on her shoulder. "But you proved what you set out to prove. The world knows now. That man can never deny your boy again." Maya looked down at Elijah. He was staring up at her with those incredible eyes, completely unaware of what had just happened. "I did it for you," she whispered. "Everything I do is for you." 3 days later, the story broke. Maya didn't know how the news got out. Maybe someone at the lab leaked. Maybe one of Derek's employees talked. Maybe Harrison Cole, angry about losing, decided to sabotage his own client. However it happened, the headline was everywhere. Billionaire Derek Thornton confirmed as father of secret love child. DNA test proves 99.97% match. Within hours, Maya's phone was exploding. Reporters camped outside her apartment building. Photographers tried to snap pictures through her windows. News vans lined the street like an invading army. "Miss Johnson, can you tell us about your relationship with Derek Thornton? How does it feel to be vindicated? Will you be seeking child support, custody, marriage?" Maya refused to answer. She kept her blinds closed and her door locked and waited for the storm to pass. But the storm was just beginning. That evening, Derek Thornton held an emergency press conference. Maya watched it on her tiny television, Elijah asleep in her lap. Derek stood at a podium, cameras flashing, reporters shouting questions. He looked tired, older than she had ever seen him. "I'm here to address the recent reports," he began. "It's true that a DNA test has confirmed I am the biological father of a child named Elijah. I want to be clear, I did not know about this child until recently. I was not in a relationship with his mother. This was the result of a single encounter that I deeply regret." Maya's fists clenched. Regret. He regretted her. He regretted Elijah. He was still trying to minimize to distance to protect his precious reputation. "I will of course fulfill my financial obligations." Derek continued. "I have instructed my lawyers to establish a trust fund for the child and arrange appropriate child support. But I want to be clear about something else. I am not, and have never been in a relationship with this woman. Any claims to the contrary are false." The reporters erupted with questions. "Mr. Thornton, did you offer the mother hush money? Why did you initially deny the child? Will you be seeking custody?" Derek held up his hand. "I have nothing further to say at this time." He walked off the stage without answering. Maya turned off the television. Her hands were shaking with rage. He was still lying, still spinning, still treating her like a mistake and Elijah like an inconvenience. Her phone buzzed. "Denise." "Did you see it?" "I saw it." "I'm sorry, Maya. I know that's not what you wanted to hear." Maya took a deep breath. "What happens now?" "Now we fight. He's admitted paternity publicly. That gives us leverage. We can push for custody rights, visitation schedules, whatever you want. He can't hide anymore." "I don't want to fight." Maya's voice cracked. "I want him to be a father. I want him to care about his son. Is that really impossible?" Denise was quiet for a moment. "I don't know, but I do know that sometimes people change, and sometimes they need to be forced to change. Either way, Maya, you've already won the hardest battle. The truth is out. Whatever comes next, you face it with the truth on your side." Maya hung up and looked at Elijah. He was awake now, his gray eyes fixed on her face. "Your daddy went on TV tonight," she told him softly. "He said he regrets us. But you know what? I don't regret anything. You're the best thing that ever happened to me. And one day, he's going to see that. I have to believe that." Elijah grabbed her finger and smiled his crooked little smile, and despite everything, the press conference, the lies, the pain, Maya felt a flicker of hope. The truth was out. Now all that remained was what came next. 2 weeks after the press conference, Maya received an unexpected visitor. She was feeding Elijah his afternoon bottle when the knock came. Not loud and aggressive like before, soft, almost hesitant. She checked the peephole and froze. Derek Thornton stood on the other side of her door. Alone. No lawyers, no security. Just him in jeans and a plain black jacket, looking like he hadn't slept in days. Maya's heart pounded. She didn't move, didn't speak. Derek knocked again. "Maya, please, I just want to talk." Every instinct told her to keep the door closed, to protect herself and Elijah from whatever game he was playing now. But something in his voice was different. The arrogance was gone. The coldness had melted into something that sounded almost like desperation. Against her better judgment, she opened the door. Derek looked at her, then at Elijah in her arms. His eyes, those storm-gray eyes, locked onto his son's matching pair. "Can I come in?" he asked quietly. Maya stepped aside. Derek walked into her tiny apartment like he was entering a foreign country. He looked around at the peeling wallpaper, the secondhand furniture, the cramped kitchen where she had cried countless nights. This was where his son lived. This was the world he had forced Maya into. "Why are you here?" Maya asked. Derek turned to face her. For a long moment he didn't speak. Then slowly, he sank onto her worn couch and put his head in his hands. "I don't know," he admitted. "I don't know why I'm here. I couldn't stay away anymore." Maya remained standing. Elijah clutched protectively against her chest. "You said on television that you regret us." "I know. You said you weren't in a relationship with me. You made it sound like I was nothing." "I know." "Then why are you here, Derek?" He looked up. His eyes were red. His face was drawn. "Because I can't stop seeing his eyes." Maya's breath caught. "Every night," Derek continued, his voice breaking, "every time I close my eyes, every time I look in the mirror, I see him. I see those eyes. My father's eyes. My eyes." He swallowed hard. "I've been running from the truth for 9 months, but I can't run anymore. It's destroying me." Maya didn't respond. She waited. "I'm not here to ask for forgiveness," Derek said. "I don't deserve it. I'm not here to make excuses. There are none. I'm here because—" He stopped, started again. "I'm here because I want to know him." The words hung in the air. "You want to know him?" Maya repeated flatly. "After everything you've done?" "Yes. After calling me a liar, after offering me money to kill him, after denying him in front of an entire hospital, after dragging me through courts and press conferences. You want to know him?" "Yes." Derek's voice cracked. "Please." Maya stared at him. Part of her wanted to scream. Part of her wanted to throw him out. Part of her wanted to make him feel every ounce of pain she had felt for the past year. But another part, the part that remembered what it felt like to grow up without a father, to wonder why she wasn't enough for him to stay, hesitated. She looked at Elijah, at his innocent face, at his trusting eyes. He deserved better than this. better than a father who only showed up when guilt became unbearable. But he also deserved the chance to know where he came from. "I'm not doing this for you," Maya finally said. "I'm doing it for him. Because one day he's going to ask about his father, and I want to be able to tell him that I gave you every chance." Derek's face crumpled with something that looked like relief. "But hear me clearly." Maya's voice hardened. "This is not forgiveness. This is not a second chance. This is a test. You show up. You stay consistent. You prove that you can be a father and not just a checkbook. One wrong move, one broken promise, one moment where you treat my son like he's less than everything and you're done. Forever. Do you understand?" Derek nodded slowly. "I understand." "Good." She walked toward him and for the first time held Elijah out. "This is your son. His name is Elijah. He likes to be held close. He laughs when you make silly faces. And he has your eyes." Derek's hands trembled as he reached out. He took the baby carefully like he was holding something made of glass. Elijah looked up at him. Those storm-gray eyes met their mirror image. And Derek Thornton, billionaire titan of industry man who thought he could buy anything, started to cry. Derek held Elijah for 17 minutes. Maya counted every one of them. She stood against the kitchen counter, arms crossed, watching the billionaire cradle her son like he was made of porcelain. Tears streamed down Derek's face. His shoulders shook with silent sobs. And Elijah, completely unaware of the magnitude of this moment, simply stared up at his father with those storm-gray eyes. When Derek finally spoke, his voice was barely a whisper. "He's so small. He was smaller when he was born." Maya's tone was flat. "You would know that if you'd been there." Derek flinched like she had slapped him. Good. He deserved to flinch. "I know." He wiped his face with one hand, still holding Elijah with the other. "I know I missed everything. His first breath, his first cry, his first smile, his first fever, his first sleepless night, his first time being hungry because his mother couldn't afford formula." Derek looked at her. The guilt in his eyes was almost unbearable to witness. "I'm sorry." The words came out broken. "Maya, I'm so sorry." "Sorry doesn't feed the baby at 3 a.m. Maya pushed off from the counter and walked toward him. "Sorry doesn't pay the rent I've been struggling to make. Sorry doesn't erase the months I spent being called a liar and a gold digger because of you." I know sorry isn't enough." "Then what is enough?" Maya stopped right in front of him. "Tell me, Derek, what could possibly make up for what you did?" He didn't answer. He couldn't. Elijah made a soft sound, reaching up toward Maya. She took him from Derek's arms, and she felt Derek's reluctance to let go. "I want to try," he said. "I know I don't deserve it. I know you have every reason to throw me out right now. But I want to try to be his father. Please." Maya looked at her son, at his innocent face, at the eyes that bound him to this broken man forever. "Actions," she said finally, "not words. You want to be his father? Show me. Show up. Be consistent. Be present. And understand that the second you hurt him, the second you make him feel like he's not wanted, I will cut you out of his life so fast you'll forget you ever had a son." Derek nodded. "I understand." Because this isn't a game. This isn't something you can buy your way into or out of. This is a child, a human being who didn't ask to be born into this mess. "I understand, Maya. I swear to you, I understand." She searched his face for any sign of deception, any hint that this was just another manipulation, but all she saw was exhaustion, fear, and something that might have been genuine desire to change. "Tomorrow," she said. "Come back tomorrow, same time. We'll see how serious you are." Derek nodded again. He stood there for a moment longer, looking at Elijah like he wanted to memorize every detail of his face. Then he left. Maya closed the door behind him and leaned against it, her heart pounding. What had she just done? She had let Derek Thornton back into her life, into Elijah's life, after everything he had done. Was she making a terrible mistake? Her phone buzzed. Miss Loretta. Child, I just saw the news. They're saying Derek Thornton was spotted in the Bronx. Please tell me that has nothing to do with you. Maya closed her eyes. He came here. What? He showed up at my apartment. He wanted to see Elijah. Silence on the other end. Then, and you let him? I let him hold him. For a few minutes. Miss Loretta was quiet for a long moment. Maya Johnson, you are either the bravest woman I know or the most foolish. I can't decide which. Neither can I. What did he say? He said he wants to try, to be a father. He said he can't stop seeing Elijah's eyes. And you believe him? Maya thought about the tears on Derek's face, the way his hands had trembled, the raw desperation in his voice. I don't know what I believe, she admitted. But I know what Elijah deserves. He deserves to know his father tried. Even if it fails. Even if Derek disappoints us again. At least I'll be able to tell my son that I gave him the chance. Miss Loretta sighed. You've got a bigger heart than most, child. Just don't let that heart get you hurt. I won't. I've got walls now. Strong ones. Good. You're going to need them. The next day, Derek showed up at exactly the time Maya had specified. She had half expected him not to come. Half expected the whole thing to have been another manipulation that he would abandon as soon as it became inconvenient. But there he was, standing at her door with a bag of groceries in one hand and a look of nervous determination on his face. I didn't know what you needed, he said, holding up the bag. So I got a little of everything. Formula, diapers, some food for you. Maya stared at the groceries. You went shopping? I went shopping. You, Derek Thornton, went to a grocery store, by yourself. A ghost of a smile crossed his face. It's been a while. I think I confused the cashier when I couldn't figure out how to use the card reader. Despite herself, Maya felt her lips twitch. You're joking. I wish I was. There were people taking pictures. It'll probably be on the news by tonight. He was right. It was on the news by evening. Billionaire Derek Thornton spotted shopping in Bronx grocery store. Sources say he appeared confused and lost. The comments were brutal. Some people mocked him. Others accused him of staging a publicity stunt. A few defended him, saying everyone deserved a second chance. Maya showed him the article on her phone while he sat on her couch, awkwardly holding a bottle for Elijah. Does it bother you? She asked. What they're saying. Derek looked at the screen for a long moment. Then he shrugged. I've been in the news my whole life. I'm used to people having opinions about me. That's not an answer. He set the phone down and focused on Elijah. What bothers me is that I deserve it. Every nasty comment, every accusation. I treated you like garbage. I denied my own son. Whatever people say about me now, I earned it. Maya sat down across from him. Why did you do it the truth this time, not the version you tell your lawyers? Derek was quiet for a while. Elijah finished his bottle and started squirming. Derek tried to burp him the way Maya had shown him his movements, clumsy but earnest. My father, he finally said. Victor Thornton. He was... Cold doesn't even begin to describe him. He believed emotions were weakness. Attachment was weakness. Love was the biggest weakness of all. Maya listened without interrupting. When I was 7, I had a dog. A golden retriever named Max. My father gave him to me for my birthday, which surprised everyone because he never gave gifts that weren't practical. But I loved that dog. I loved him more than anything. Derek's voice grew distant. A year later, I came home from school and Max was gone. My father had given him away. When I cried, he locked me in my room for 3 days. No food, minimal water. He said I needed to learn that attachment made you vulnerable, that caring about anything other than power and success would destroy me. Maya's stomach turned. That's abuse, Derek. I know it now. But back then, all I knew was that my father was teaching me to survive. And I learned. God help me, I learned. He looked down at Elijah, his expression haunted. When you told me you were pregnant, all I could hear was my father's voice, telling me this was a trap, telling me emotions would destroy me, telling me to cut it off before it could make me weak. So you chose cruelty. I chose survival, the only way I knew how. He met her eyes. I'm not asking you to understand. I'm not asking you to forgive. I'm just telling you the truth. I was taught to be a monster, and for most of my life I was exactly that. Maya sat with his words. They didn't excuse what he had done. Nothing could excuse that. But they explained it. And somehow that felt important. Your father is dead, she said. Yes. Then stop letting him control you. Stop making decisions based on what he taught you. You're not 7 years old anymore, Derek. You have a choice. Be the monster he made you or be something else. Derek looked at her like she had just spoken in a foreign language. Something else, he repeated. I don't even know what that looks like. Then figure it out, because your son is watching, and he's going to learn from you whether you want him to or not. The question is, what are you going to teach him? The weeks that followed were strange. Derek came every day, sometimes for an hour, sometimes for 3. He learned to change diapers. He learned which lullabies made Elijah sleep and which ones made him cry harder. He learned that babies were messy and exhausting and completely irrational. And slowly, painfully, he started to change. Maya watched him like a hawk. She noticed every expression, every word, every interaction. She was waiting for the mask to slip, waiting for the real Derek to emerge. But the mask never came back. What she saw instead was a man desperately trying to figure out how to be human. He made mistakes constantly. He held Elijah wrong. He used too much formula. He once forgot to support the baby's head, and Maya nearly had a heart attack. But he kept trying, every single day. 3 weeks after Derek's first visit, something unexpected happened. Maya's landlord knocked on her door. She opened it to find Mr. Patterson, a heavy-set man with a permanent scowl looking unusually uncomfortable. Miss Johnson, he said, I need to talk to you about your rent. Maya's heart sank. She was 3 days late this month. She had been planning to pay tomorrow after her next shift at the diner. I know I'm a little behind. I can have it to you by... It's been paid. Maya blinked. What? Your rent. For this month and the next 12. It's been paid in full. She stared at him. By who? Mr. Patterson shifted his weight. I'm not at liberty to say, but you're covered through next year. Thought you should know. He turned and walked away before she could ask anything else. Maya stood in her doorway, her mind racing. 12 months of rent. That was over $15,000. She knew exactly who had done it. When Derek arrived that afternoon, she was waiting for him. You paid my rent. He paused in the doorway. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't lie to me. My landlord just told me someone paid a year in advance. Who else would do that? Derek stepped inside and closed the door. I wanted to help. I didn't ask for help. I know. I specifically said this wasn't about money. I know. Maya felt her anger rising. Then why would you do this? Why would you go behind my back and... Because you were 3 days late on rent. Derek's voice was quiet but firm. Because you work double shifts at a diner to afford formula. Because you shouldn't have to struggle like this when I have more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes. That's not your decision to make. You're right, it's not, but I made it anyway. He met her eyes. You can be angry, you can yell at me, but I'm not going to apologize for making sure my son's mother doesn't get evicted. Maya's hands clenched at her sides. She wanted to scream. She wanted to throw him out. This was exactly what she had been afraid of. Derek using his money to control the situation, to make her dependent on him. But another part of her, the part that had been terrified about rent for months, felt something else. Relief. "You should have asked me," she finally said. "You don't get to make decisions about my life without talking to me first." "You're right, I should have asked. I'm sorry. And if you ever do something like this again without my permission, we're done. Do you understand?" "I understand." Maya took a deep breath. The anger was still there, simmering beneath the surface, but she was too tired to fight about it. "Fine. But this doesn't change anything. You're still on probation." Derek nodded. "I know." He walked over to where Elijah was lying on a blanket, kicking his legs and making happy sounds. When Derek picked him up, the baby immediately grabbed a fistful of his shirt and refused to let go. Maya watched them together. Father and son. The billionaire and the baby he had once denied. Maybe people really could change. Or maybe she was fooling herself. Only time would tell. 2 months after Derek first held his son, the fragile peace shattered. It started with a phone call. Maya was at the diner refilling coffee cups and trying to ignore the exhaustion that had become her constant companion. Her phone buzzed in her apron pocket. She ignored it at first. Then it buzzed again, and again. During her break, she checked her messages. 3 missed calls from Denise. A text that made her blood run cold. "Call me immediately. There's been a development." Maya's hands shook as she dialed. Denise answered on the first ring. "Where are you?" "Work. What's wrong?" "Derek's lawyer filed new paperwork this morning. He's seeking joint custody." The world tilted sideways. "What?" "Joint custody. 50-50 split. He wants Elijah to live with him half the time." Maya gripped the phone so hard her knuckles turned white. "That's impossible. He can't just— I thought he understood." "Maya, listen to me. I don't know if this is Derek's decision or his lawyers acting on their own. But you need to come to my office. Now." Maya's manager let her leave early when he saw the look on her face. She called Miss Loretta, who agreed to pick up Elijah from daycare. Then she took the subway to Manhattan, her mind spinning with fury and disbelief. Joint custody. After everything. After all his promises to let her take the lead. After weeks of showing up and pretending to be changed. It had all been a lie. Denise was waiting in her office with a thick stack of papers. "Before you say anything, I need you to read this." Maya took the documents. Her eyes scanned the legal jargon, barely comprehending. Petition for joint custody. Best interests of the child. Financial stability of the father. "He's arguing that he can provide better for Elijah," Denise explained. "Better housing, better education, better opportunities. He's trying to take my son. He's trying to share custody. Legally, that's different." "Is it?" Maya slammed the papers on the desk. "He wants Elijah to live with him half the time, in his penthouse, with his nannies and his staff. How long before he decides he can provide everything better? How long before he pushes me out completely?" Denise didn't have an answer. Maya pulled out her phone. "I'm calling him, right now." "Maya, I don't think that's—" But Maya was already dialing. Derek answered on the second ring. "Maya, I can explain." "Joint custody." Her voice shook with rage. "You filed for joint custody. My lawyers. Don't you dare blame your lawyers. You signed those papers. You put this in motion. After everything you said. After all your promises about letting me lead, about earning my trust, about being better. Maya, please listen." "I'm done listening. I'm done believing you. I gave you a chance, Derek. Against my better judgment, against everyone's advice, I let you into our lives. And this is what you do. It's not what you think." "Then what is it? Explain to me how filing for custody is anything other than an attempt to take my son." Derek was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was strained. "Harrison filed without my knowledge." Maya laughed bitterly. "Right. Your own lawyer filed custody papers without telling you. Do you think I'm stupid? I'm telling you the truth. I found out this morning the same time you did. I've already instructed him to withdraw the petition. And I'm supposed to believe that." You don't have to believe anything. Just wait. Give me 24 hours. If the petition isn't withdrawn by tomorrow, you can do whatever you want. Cut me off. Take me to court. Destroy me in the press. I won't fight it. Maya's anger warred with something else. Doubt. Was it possible he was telling the truth? 24 hours, she said finally. Not a second more. She hung up before he could respond. Denise was watching her with careful eyes. You believe him. I don't know what I believe anymore. What do you want to do? Maya stared at the custody papers, at the legal language that could rip her son away from her. I want to wait, she said. 24 hours. If he's lying, I'll know. And then I'll burn his world to the ground. 18 hours later, Maya received a call from Denise. The petition's been withdrawn, officially. I just got the confirmation. Maya let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. So he was telling the truth. It appears so. His lawyer also filed a statement saying the original petition was submitted in error and does not reflect Mr. Thornton's wishes. In error, right. Maya, I know you're angry, but this is actually good news. He kept his word. He shouldn't have had to keep his word. This shouldn't have happened in the first place. Denise was quiet. Then, what are you going to do? Maya thought about the past 2 months. The grocery runs, the diaper changes, the quiet moments when Derek would hold Elijah and look at him like he was the most precious thing in the world. Had all of that been real, or had it been a performance while his lawyers plotted behind the scenes? I'm going to talk to him, she said, face to face, and he's going to tell me the truth about what really happened. That evening, Derek came to her apartment at her request. He looked terrible. Dark circles under his eyes, stubble on his jaw, his usually immaculate appearance disheveled and worn. Thank you for seeing me, he said. Don't thank me yet. Sit down. He sat. Maya remained standing, arms crossed. Tell me what happened. The truth. All of it. Derek ran a hand through his hair. Harrison has been my lawyer for 15 years. He was my father's lawyer before that. He's always been aggressive. It's what I paid him for. Keep going. When I started coming here, when I started spending time with Elijah, he got nervous. He said I was being reckless, emotional. He said I was opening myself up to liability. Maya's jaw tightened. Liability? He called your son a liability. He called the whole situation a liability. He said you could take me for everything. Child support, settlements, public humiliation. He recommended a preemptive strike. Joint custody. Joint custody. Establish legal rights before you could use them against me. That's how he framed it. And you said no. I said no. Multiple times. I told him I wanted to handle this differently. I told him you and I were working things out. Maya studied his face. Then how did the petition get filed? Derek's expression darkened. He did it without authorization. He said later that he was protecting my interests, that I was thinking with my emotions instead of my brain. And what did you do? I fired him. Maya blinked. What? This morning. After I found out what he did. I called him into my office and terminated him on the spot. 15 years of service. Gone. Because he tried to hurt you and Elijah. For a long moment, Maya couldn't speak. She had expected excuses, deflections, more lies. She hadn't expected this. You fired your lawyer. For me. I fired my lawyer because he betrayed my trust. Because he tried to take actions that could have destroyed the only real thing in my life. Derek stood and walked toward her. Not threatening, just close. I know I haven't earned your trust. I know I've given you every reason to doubt me. But I need you to understand something, Maya. These past 2 months have been the best of my life. Holding Elijah, watching him grow, being part of something that isn't about money or power or winning. His voice cracked. I'm not going to lose that. I'm not going to let anyone take it from me. Not my lawyers, not the press, not even my own worst instincts. I choose you, both of you, and I will keep choosing you every single day for as long as you'll let me." Maya felt tears prick her eyes. She blinked them back furiously. "You hurt me," she whispered. "When I saw those papers, it felt like the hospital all over again. It felt like you were choosing power over us." "I know, and I'm sorry. I should have controlled Harrison better. I should have anticipated that he would do something like this." "You should have. I should have." Derek reached out and took her hand. She let him. "But I'm here now, telling you the truth, asking for another chance. How many more chances can I ask for before you run out?" Maya looked at their joined hands. His fingers were long and elegant. Hers were rough from years of hard work. Two different worlds connected by a child with storm-gray eyes. "I don't know," she admitted. "I don't know how many chances I have left, but I know that walking away now after everything would feel like giving up, and I've never been good at giving up." Derek's grip tightened. "Then don't. Don't give up on me. On us." Maya pulled her hand back gently. "Don't push it. You're still on very thin ice." "I know. And if anything like this ever happens again—" "It won't. I swear on my son's life it won't." The weight of that oath hung in the air between them. Maya nodded slowly. "Okay. But we're doing this my way from now on. No more lawyers making decisions. No more surprises. Complete transparency." "Complete transparency. And Derek?" "Yes. If you ever call Elijah a liability again, even repeating what someone else said, I will end you." Derek almost smiled. "Understood." The next morning, Maya woke to a new headline. Derek Thornton fires longtime lawyer. Sources say it's related to custody dispute with baby mama. The article was full of speculation and anonymous sources. But buried in the middle was a quote that made Maya's heart stop. Harrison Cole, when reached for comment, stated, "Mr. Thornton has made a series of poor decisions since becoming involved with this woman. I was merely trying to protect his interests. It's unfortunate that he has allowed his judgment to be compromised by emotion." Maya read the quote 3 times. Then she called Derek. "Did you see it?" "I saw it." His voice was tired. "Harrison's trying to save face. He's going to drag this out in the press as long as he can. Does this change anything?" "Not for me. Does it change anything for you?" Maya thought about it. Harrison's words were poison, but they were also the words of a bitter man who had just lost his most valuable client. "No," she said finally. "It doesn't change anything." "Good. Because I have something I want to ask you." "What?" Derek paused. "Sunday. There's a charity event at the Metropolitan Museum. I want you and Elijah to come, with me, publicly." Maya's breath caught. "You want us to go public together?" "I want to stop hiding. I want the world to see that I'm not ashamed of my son, that I'm proud of him, that I'm trying to be the father he deserves." "Derek, that's a huge step." "I know, and if you're not ready, I understand. But I thought I should ask." Maya looked across her apartment to where Elijah was sleeping in his crib. Her son, their son, the child who had brought them together and torn them apart and somehow impossibly was bringing them together again. "Let me think about it," she said. "Take all the time you need." She hung up and sat in silence, her mind racing. Going public with Derek Thornton, walking into a room full of cameras and socialites and reporters, declaring to the world that she wasn't just a scandal, but a partner, a co-parent, a presence in his life. Was she ready for that? More importantly, was Elijah ready? Maya looked at her son again, at his peaceful face, at those storm-gray eyes that were closed in sleep, but that she could picture perfectly. He deserved better than secrets, better than shame, better than a father who hid him from the world. Maybe this was the next step. Maybe this was how they proved to everyone, including themselves, that this strange, broken, impossible thing they were building could actually last. Or maybe it would all come crashing down. There was only one way to find out. Maya picked up her phone and dialed Derek's number. "Sunday," she said when he answered. "We'll be there." Sunday arrived faster than Maya expected. She stood in front of her closet at 4 p.m., staring at the handful of dresses she owned, none of which seemed appropriate for a charity gala at the Metropolitan Museum. Her nicest outfit was a black dress she had bought for her mother's funeral 3 years ago. It still fit, but wearing it felt wrong. Her phone buzzed, a text from Derek. "I'm sending something over. Should arrive in 10 minutes. Don't argue." Maya wanted to argue. She wanted to tell him she didn't need his charity, didn't need his designer clothes, didn't need him to dress her up like a doll for his fancy friends. But she also didn't want to show up looking like she didn't belong. Not for herself. For Elijah. 15 minutes later, a delivery arrived. Inside the garment bag was a deep burgundy gown, simple but elegant, with matching shoes and a small clutch. No designer label visible. No price tag. Just a note in Derek's handwriting. "You would look beautiful in anything, but I thought you might like this. No strings attached. D." Maya held the dress against herself and looked in the mirror. The color brought out the warmth in her skin. The cut was flattering without being provocative. It was, she had to admit, perfect. "Damn you, Derek Thornton," she muttered. "Damn you for knowing exactly what I needed." She put on the dress, did her hair, applied the small amount of makeup she owned, and when she looked at her reflection, she barely recognized herself. For the first time in years, she looked like someone who belonged somewhere. At 6 p.m., Derek arrived to pick them up. He stopped in her doorway when he saw her, his eyes widening. "Maya." His voice was barely a whisper. "You look incredible. Don't make it weird." But she felt her cheeks flush. "Is the car ready?" "The car is ready. Everything is ready." He looked at Elijah, who was dressed in a tiny suit that Miss Loretta had somehow produced from her endless network of connections. "And this young man looks very handsome. He's going to hate it. He hates being overdressed. He'll survive. Tonight is important." Maya took a deep breath. "I know. That's what scares me." They walked to the car together. A black SUV, not a limousine. Derek had remembered that she hated anything too flashy. "Before we go," he said as the driver pulled away from the curb, "I need to tell you something." Maya's heart clenched. "What now?" "My mother will be there tonight." The words hit her like ice water. "Your mother? You never mentioned your mother." "We don't speak often. She and my father divorced when I was 12. She moved to Europe, built a new life. But she flies back for major events, and this is one of them." "Does she know about Elijah?" Derek hesitated. "She knows he exists. She's seen the news coverage. But she doesn't know you've been coming to see him. She doesn't know we're arriving together tonight." "No." Maya closed her eyes. "Derek, what am I walking into?" "I don't know. My mother is unpredictable. She might embrace you. She might ignore you. She might cause a scene." He reached over and took her hand. "But I wanted you to know before we got there. No more surprises." Maya looked at their joined hands, then at Elijah, who was happily chewing on a teething ring in his car seat. "What's her name?" "Victoria. Victoria Thornton. She kept the name after the divorce because it opens doors." "And what's she like?" Derek was quiet for a moment. "Cold, calculating. She plays social games like chess. But underneath all that, I think she's just lonely. Like my father was. Like I was. Like you were." He met her eyes. "Before you." Maya didn't know what to say to that, so she said nothing. She just held his hand and watched the city lights blur past the window. The Metropolitan Museum was chaos. Cameras flashed before they even exited the car. Reporters shouted questions. Security guards struggled to hold back the crowd. Derek, is this the mother of your child?" "Miss Johnson, how does it feel to be here tonight?" Is there a wedding in your future? Maya froze in the doorway of the SUV. The noise, the lights, the sheer intensity of it all was overwhelming. Derek stepped out first, then turned and offered his hand. Stay with me. Don't answer any questions. Just smile and walk. She took his hand, stepped onto the red carpet, and immediately felt like she was drowning. The walk to the entrance felt endless. Cameras clicked from every direction. People shouted her name. Some of the things they said were supportive. Others were cruel. Gold digger. She's beautiful. He's just using her. They look perfect together. Maya kept her head high and her eyes forward. Derek's hand was warm and steady in hers. Elijah miraculously stayed calm in her arms, his gray eyes taking in the chaos with quiet curiosity. And then they were inside. The noise faded. The cameras disappeared. Maya let out a breath she felt like she had been holding for hours. You did great, Derek murmured. The worst part is over. The worst part was supposed to be my future mother-in-law. She's not your mother-in-law. Yet. Maya caught herself. I mean, not ever. I don't know why I said that. Derek smiled slightly. Come on, let's get you a drink. They walked through the gala together, Derek introducing her to people whose names she immediately forgot. Everyone was polite, everyone smiled, but Maya could feel the judgment behind their eyes. Who is she? What's she doing here? How long until he gets bored? She was just starting to relax when she saw the woman. Tall, elegant, silver hair perfectly styled, eyes the exact same shade of storm gray as Derek's and Elijah's. She wore a white gown that made her look like a queen surveying her kingdom. Victoria Thornton. Their eyes met across the room. Victoria's expression didn't change. She simply turned and began walking toward them with the steady grace of someone who had never rushed for anything in her life. Derek? Maya's voice was tight. She's coming. I see her. Stay calm. I am calm. Your hand is shaking. Maya forced herself to breathe. Victoria was 20 feet away. 15. 10. And then she was standing in front of them, her gaze moving from Derek to Maya to Elijah, with the precision of a surgeon examining a patient. Derek. Her voice was cool but not cold. I see you finally decided to acknowledge your responsibilities. Mother. It's good to see you too. Victoria's attention shifted to Maya. Her eyes swept up and down assessing cataloging judging. You must be Miss Johnson. Maya. She was proud that her voice didn't shake. Please call me Maya. Maya. Victoria said the name like she was tasting it. My son has caused you a great deal of trouble. Yes, he has. Something flickered in Victoria's expression. Surprise maybe, or approval. I like honesty, the older woman said. Most people in Derek's life are afraid to tell the truth. I can see you're not. I don't have anything to lose by being honest. Everyone has something to lose. Victoria's gaze dropped to Elijah. For a long moment she studied the baby's face, his gray eyes, his features. He looks like Victor, she said quietly. My late husband. He has the same eyes. Those eyes run in the family, Maya said. Derek has them too. I know. I've spent 40 years looking at those eyes. Victoria reached out and touched Elijah's cheek with one perfectly manicured finger. The baby grabbed her hand and held on. Victoria's expression shifted. The cold mask cracked just for a moment, revealing something softer underneath. Hello, little one, she murmured. You have no idea what you've gotten yourself into. Do you? Elijah gurgled happily. Victoria looked up at Derek. You should have told me sooner. Would you have cared? I would have liked the opportunity to decide for myself. She straightened the mask, sliding back into place. We'll speak more later. There are things to discuss, but for now, enjoy the evening. She turned and walked away without another word. Maya released a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. What just happened? I have no idea. Derek looked shaken. But I think she might actually like you. That was her liking me. For my mother, that was practically a warm embrace. The rest of the gala passed in a blur. Maya met more people, smiled more smiles, answered polite questions about Elijah while deflecting intrusive ones about her relationship with Derek. By 10 p.m., she was exhausted. Elijah had fallen asleep in her arms hours ago, and her feet ached from the unfamiliar heels. "Can we go?" she asked Derek quietly. "I don't think I can do this much longer." "Of course. Let me just—" A commotion near the entrance interrupted him. Raised voices, camera flashes, security guards rushing toward something. "What's going on?" Maya asked. Derek's face had gone pale. "No, not him. Not tonight." "What? Who?" Before Derek could answer, a man pushed through the crowd. He was in his 60s, heavy-set, with a red face, and an expensive suit that couldn't hide his disheveled appearance. "Derek Thornton!" The man's voice was loud and slurred. "There he is, the man who ruined my life." Derek stepped in front of Maya, shielding her and Elijah. "Harrison, you shouldn't be here." Harrison Cole, Derek's former lawyer, the man who had filed for custody without authorization. "Shouldn't be here." Harrison laughed bitterly. "I gave you 15 years, 15 years of my life, and you threw me away for that woman. You betrayed my trust. You tried to take my son. I tried to protect you." Harrison staggered forward. Security guards grabbed his arms, but he kept shouting, "That woman is going to destroy you. She's going to take everything you have, and when she does, remember that I tried to warn you." Maya felt her stomach turn. Everyone was staring. Phones were recording. This would be everywhere by morning. "Get him out of here," Derek commanded the security guards. They dragged Harrison toward the exit, but he kept screaming, "You'll regret this. You'll regret choosing her over me, over everything your father built. She's nothing. Derek. Nothing." The doors closed behind him. The room fell silent. Then the whispers started. "Did you see that? His own lawyer. What did she do to cause all this drama?" Maya felt tears prick her eyes. Not sadness. Humiliation. After everything she had endured tonight, after every smile and handshake and moment of pretending she belonged, Harrison Cole had just reminded everyone exactly what they thought of her. Nothing. "Maya." Derek's voice was urgent. "Maya, look at me." She couldn't. If she looked at him, she would cry, and she refused to give anyone the satisfaction. "I want to leave," she whispered. "Now." "Of course. Let's go." They walked through the silent crowd toward the exit. Every step felt like a mile. Every stare burned into her skin. But she kept her head high. She held her son close. And she didn't let a single tear fall. Not until they were in the car. Not until the doors closed and the driver pulled away from the curb. Not until Derek wrapped his arms around her and Elijah and held them both. Then she cried. "I'm sorry," Derek kept saying. "I'm so sorry. I didn't know he would be there. I didn't know." "It doesn't matter." Maya's voice was muffled against his chest. "This is who they think I am. A nobody. A gold digger. A woman who's going to destroy you. That's not who you are. But that's what everyone believes." Derek pulled back and took her face in his hands. His eyes were fierce. "Listen to me. I don't care what anyone believes. I don't care about Harrison Cole or the whispers or the headlines that are going to come out tomorrow. I care about you. I care about Elijah. And nothing anyone says is going to change that." "How can you be so sure?" "Because for the first time in my life, I know what matters. And it's not money. It's not power. It's not what other people think." He pressed his forehead against hers. "It's this. Right here. You and me and our son." Maya closed her eyes. The tears were still falling, but something else was building in her chest. Something that felt almost like hope. "I believe you," she whispered. "God help me, but I believe you." The headlines the next morning were brutal. Chaos at Met Gala. Thornton's former lawyer causes scene over baby mama. Harrison Cole claims Maya Johnson will destroy Billionaire. Drunk and disgraced inside the Thornton scandal. Maya read every article, every comment, every cruel word strangers wrote about her without knowing anything about her life. Then she put down her phone and went to feed Elijah his breakfast. Derek called at 9 a.m. "Have you seen the news?" "I've seen it." "Are you okay?" "I'm fine." She wasn't, but she was learning to fake it. "I'm holding a press conference this afternoon. I'm going to address everything. Harrison, the gala, our relationship." Maya's hand tightened on the phone. "What are you going to say?" "The truth. That Harrison acted without my authorization. That I fired him because he betrayed my trust. That you are the mother of my child and I'm proud to be building a life with you." "Derek, you don't have to." "Yes, I do. I should have done this months ago. I should have stood up and told the world who you really are, instead of letting them believe the worst." Maya was quiet for a moment. "This could hurt your company, your investors, everything you've built." "I don't care." "You should care." "I don't." His voice was firm. "Let them sell their stock. Let them write their articles. Let the whole damn empire crumble. None of it means anything if I can't look my son in the eye and tell him I did the right thing." Maya felt her throat tighten. "When did you become this person?" "What person?" "Someone who puts people before profit." Derek was quiet for a long moment. "When I held my son for the first time. When I looked at you and realized what I had almost thrown away. When I finally understood that my father was wrong about everything." Maya wiped her eyes. "The press conference. What time?" 3 o'clock. "I want you there. If you're willing." "I'll be there." The press conference was packed. Reporters filled the room. Cameras lined the walls. The air hummed with anticipation and barely concealed hostility. Maya sat in the front row with Elijah on her lap. Miss Loretta sat beside her, a steadying presence. Denise was on her other side, ready to intervene if anything went wrong. At exactly 3 p.m., Derek walked to the podium. He looked tired but determined. His suit was impeccable, but his eyes showed the strain of the past 48 hours. "Thank you all for coming," he began. "I know there's been a lot of speculation about the events at last night's gala. I'm here to set the record straight." The room fell silent. "First, regarding Harrison Cole. Mr. Cole was my lawyer for 15 years. I trusted him with my company, my finances, my personal life. 2 months ago, he filed a custody petition against Maya Johnson without my knowledge or authorization. When I discovered what he had done, I terminated his employment immediately." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. His appearance at the gala last night was uninvited and unwelcome. His accusations against Miss Johnson are baseless and malicious. He is a bitter man who is angry that I chose to do the right thing instead of following his advice. Derek paused. His eyes found Maya's in the crowd. "Second, regarding my relationship with Maya Johnson. I have not been honest with you. I have not been honest with anyone. For months, I denied my son. I denied his mother. I tried to buy my way out of responsibility. I was cruel. I was cowardly. I was everything my father raised me to be. The silence in the room was absolute. But I'm done with that. I'm done hiding. I'm done pretending that my son is a liability, or that his mother is somehow beneath me." Derek's voice strengthened. "Maya Johnson is one of the strongest people I have ever met. She faced my cruelty with dignity. She raised our son alone when I abandoned her. She refused my money because she believed her child's worth couldn't be measured in dollars. And she gave me chance after chance to become a better man even when I didn't deserve it." Maya felt tears streaming down her face. She didn't try to stop them. Elijah Derek Thornton is my son. I am proud to be his father. And Maya Johnson is the woman I love. The room erupted. Reporters shouted questions. Cameras flashed. The chaos was deafening. But Maya didn't hear any of it. She was staring at Derek, her heart pounding, the words echoing in her head. The woman I love. He loved her. When had that happened? How had she missed it? Had she missed it, or had she simply been too afraid to see it? Derek stepped away from the podium and walked straight to her. The cameras followed. The reporters shouted. But he didn't seem to notice any of it. "I'm sorry I said it like that," he said quietly. "In front of everyone. I should have told you first. Alone. But I couldn't." Maya stood up. Elijah in her arms and kissed him. The room exploded. But in that moment, surrounded by chaos, Maya felt something she hadn't felt in years. Peace. Whatever happened next, whatever the headlines said, whatever the world thought of them, they would face it together. 3 weeks after the press conference, everything changed again. Maya was at the diner working her usual shift when her phone buzzed with a text from Denise. "Call me immediately. It's about Victoria Thornton." Maya's stomach dropped. She asked Carlos for a break and stepped outside. Denise answered on the first ring. "Victoria Thornton has been in contact with my office." "Why?" "She wants to meet with you, privately, without Derek." "That doesn't sound good." "I don't know what it is. She was very cryptic, but she specifically said she has information you need to hear." "Information about Derek's past." Maya's mind raced. What could Victoria possibly know that Maya didn't already know? Derek had told her everything about his father, his childhood, his reasons for being the way he was. Hadn't he? When does she want to meet? Tomorrow, at her hotel. She's only in the city for another 2 days. Maya thought about it. Every instinct told her this was a trap. That Victoria was playing some game Maya couldn't understand. But another part of her was curious. What information? What about Derek's past? "Tell her I'll be there," Maya said. Victoria's hotel suite was exactly what Maya expected. Expensive, elegant, cold. The older woman was waiting when Maya arrived, dressed in cream silk, her silver hair perfect, her expression unreadable. "Thank you for coming." Victoria gestured to a chair. "Please sit." Maya sat. "You said you had information about Derek." "I do." Victoria poured 2 cups of tea, her movements precise and graceful. "But first, I want to ask you something." "What?" "Do you love my son?" The question caught Maya off guard. "I don't see how that's relevant to—" "It's the only thing that's relevant." Victoria's gray eyes met hers. "Do you love him? Not his money, not his name, not what he can give you. Him, the flawed, broken, difficult man that he is." Maya thought about Derek, about his clumsy attempts to change diapers, his late-night visits when Elijah was sick, the way he looked at her like she was the only real thing in his life. "Yes," she said quietly. "I love him." Victoria nodded slowly. "Then you need to know what you're getting into." She reached into her purse and pulled out a folder. Inside were photographs, documents, newspaper clippings from decades ago. "My husband Victor Thornton was not a good man," Victoria said. "You know some of this. Derek has told you about the abuse, the coldness, the lessons designed to strip away any humanity." "He told me." "But there's something he doesn't know. Something Victor kept from him his entire life." Victoria handed Maya one of the photographs. It showed a young woman, maybe 20 years old, holding an infant. The woman was black. The baby had gray eyes. Maya's blood turned to ice. "Her name was Patricia Williams," Victoria said. "She was a maid at our estate. 32 years ago, Victor had an affair with her. She got pregnant." Maya couldn't breathe. "What?" "Victor did exactly what Derek tried to do to you. He denied the child. He paid her off. He threatened to destroy her if she ever spoke. She took the money and disappeared. What happened to her? To the baby? Patricia died 8 years later. Cancer. The child was placed in foster care. Victoria's voice was steady, but her hands trembled slightly. His name is Marcus Williams. He's 32 years old now, and he lives in Brooklyn. Maya stared at the photograph, the woman's face, the baby's gray eyes. Derek has a brother. A half-brother. One he's never met. One he doesn't know exists. Why are you telling me this? Victoria set down her teacup. Because Victor is dead. Because secrets have a way of surfacing. And because I believe you're strong enough to help my son face the truth. Why didn't you tell Derek yourself? Because Derek and I have never been close. He blames me for leaving him with his father. He doesn't trust me. Victoria's mask slipped for just a moment, revealing genuine pain. But he trusts you, and this truth needs to come from someone he trusts. Maya looked at the folder, at the photographs and documents that could shatter everything. This will destroy him. It might. Victoria met her eyes. Or it might set him free. Derek has spent his entire life trying to escape his father's shadow. Maybe learning that Victor wasn't just cruel to him, that he destroyed other lives too, will help Derek finally let go. Maya didn't know what to say. She sat in silence, the weight of this revelation pressing down on her. I'll leave the decision to you, Victoria said. Tell him or don't. But remember, secrets have a way of coming out. Better he hears it from you than from some reporter digging into the family history. She stood and walked to the window. I wasn't a good mother, she said quietly. I ran away when things got hard. I left my son with a monster because I wasn't strong enough to fight. I've spent the last 30 years living with that guilt. She turned back to Maya. You're stronger than I ever was. I saw it the moment we met. Whatever you decide, whatever happens, I know you'll do what's right for Derek and for your son. Maya rose slowly. She picked up the folder and held it against her chest. Thank you for telling me. Thank you for loving him. He deserves it, even if he doesn't believe he does. Maya walked out of the hotel suite with the folder clutched in her hands and a hurricane in her heart. Derek had a brother he didn't know existed, a brother who had grown up in foster care while Derek grew up in a mansion, a brother who might have his own feelings about the Thornton family and the father who abandoned him. Should she tell Derek when, how, and what would happen when she did? That night, Maya lay awake in her apartment, the folder hidden under her mattress. Elijah slept peacefully in his crib. The city hummed outside her window. She thought about Derek, about how far he had come, about how fragile their new happiness still was. She thought about Marcus Williams, a man she had never met, a man who shared Derek's blood but not his privilege, a man who might be angry, who might be dangerous, who might want revenge. She thought about her own father, the one who had walked out when she was 4 years old, the questions she had carried her entire life, the emptiness that never quite filled. Derek deserved to know, but she also knew that this truth could destroy everything they had built. Maya made her decision. Tomorrow, she would tell him. Whatever happened after that, they would face it together. She finally fell asleep as the sun began to rise, the folder burning a hole in her conscience, and the future more uncertain than ever. Maya waited until Derek came to see Elijah the next morning. She had been awake all night, turning Victoria's revelation over and over in her mind. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the photograph. The woman, the baby, the gray eyes that matched Derek's and Elijah's. A brother. Derek had a brother. When Derek walked through her door at 9 a.m. smiling and reaching for Elijah. Maya felt her heart crack. We need to talk, she said. Something in her voice made him freeze. What's wrong? Is Elijah okay? Elijah is fine. This is about you. Derek's smile faded. He set down the bag of groceries he had brought and turned to face her fully. "You're scaring me, Maya. What happened?" She couldn't do this gently. There was no gentle way. She walked to her bedroom, retrieved the folder from under the mattress, and handed it to him. "Your mother came to see me yesterday. She gave me this." Derek stared at the folder like it was a bomb. "My mother. What does she—" "Just open it." His hands trembled as he lifted the cover. Maya watched his face as he looked at the photograph. The woman, the baby, the documents. For a long moment he didn't move, didn't speak, didn't breathe. Then his knees buckled. He caught himself on the edge of the couch, the folder slipping from his fingers, photographs scattering across the floor. "Derek." Maya moved toward him. "Derek, look at me." "This can't be real." His voice was hollow. "This has to be some kind of sick joke." "It's not a joke. Your mother verified everything." "My father had another child." Derek's face contorted with something between rage and anguish. "He did the same thing to someone else. The same thing I did to you." Maya knelt beside him. "His name is Marcus Williams. He's 32 years old. He lives in Brooklyn." Derek looked at her with wild eyes. "He's alive. He's here." "Yes." "Does he know about me? About the family?" "I don't know. Your mother didn't say." Derek pressed his hands against his face. His shoulders shook with sobs that seemed to tear themselves from somewhere deep inside him. "My whole life," he gasped. "My whole life I thought I was alone. I thought I was the only one who had to survive Victor Thornton. But there was someone else. Someone my father threw away like garbage. Someone who grew up in foster care while I had everything." Maya wrapped her arms around him. "You didn't know. This isn't your fault." "I'm just like him." Derek's voice broke. "I did the exact same thing. I denied my son. I tried to pay his mother to disappear. I am my father." "No." Maya pulled back and forced him to look at her. "You are not your father. Your father never changed. He never tried to be better. He died exactly the same monster he had always been. But you, Derek, you're different. You came back. You're here. You're fighting every day to be the father Elijah deserves." "But I almost doesn't count. What counts is what you do now, what you do next." Derek wiped his face with shaking hands. "I have to find him. Marcus, I have to find him and tell him what do I even say? I don't know, but I'll help you figure it out." Derek looked at her with an expression of such raw gratitude that Maya felt tears prick her own eyes. "Why?" he asked. "Why do you stay after everything I've done? After everything my family has done? Why don't you run?" Maya thought about the question. She had asked herself the same thing countless times. "Because I believe in second chances," she finally said. "Because I've seen who you're trying to become. And because Elijah deserves a father who faces the hard things instead of running from them." Derek pulled her close and held on like she was the only thing keeping him from drowning. "I don't deserve you," he whispered. "Maybe not, but you're stuck with me anyway." 3 days later, they found Marcus Williams. It wasn't hard. A private investigator Derek hired located him within 48 hours. Marcus worked as a mechanic in a garage in Bedford-Stuyvesant. He had never been married. He had no children. He lived alone in a small apartment above a barber shop. Derek stood outside the garage for 20 minutes before he could make himself go in. Maya waited in the car with Elijah. She had offered to come with him, but Derek had insisted this was something he needed to do alone. "He might hate me," Derek had said that morning. "He might hate everything about the Thornton family. I wouldn't blame him." "He might," Maya agreed. "But he deserves to know the truth, and you deserve to face it." Now watching Derek walk through the garage door, Maya held Elijah close and prayed. Inside the garage, Marcus Williams was working under a car when a shadow fell across the floor. "We're closed for lunch," he called without looking up. "Come back in an hour." "I'm not here for a car." Something in the voice made Marcus slide out from under the vehicle. He stood slowly wiping his hands on a rag and looked at the man in front of him. Derek Thornton. He knew the face from magazines and news reports. Everyone knew that face. But it was the eyes that made Marcus freeze. Gray eyes, storm gray, the same color he saw every time he looked in a mirror. "Who are you?" Marcus asked, though he already knew. He had always known deep down. The eyes were too distinctive, too rare. "My name is Derek Thornton." Derek's voice shook. "And I think I'm your brother." Marcus didn't move, didn't speak. The rag dangled from his motionless hand. "I know this is crazy," Derek continued. "I know you have no reason to believe me or trust me, but I just found out about you 3 days ago. My mother showed me the documents, the photographs, everything my father did to your mother." "Patricia." Marcus's voice was barely a whisper. "Her name was Patricia. Patricia Williams. I know. I'm so sorry." "Sorry." Something hardened in Marcus's expression. "You're sorry Victor Thornton destroyed my mother's life. He threw her away like she was nothing. She spent years trying to survive, trying to raise me alone, and then she died. She died poor and broken and alone, and you're sorry." "I'm sorry I didn't know sooner. I'm sorry I couldn't help." "Help?" Marcus laughed bitterly. "You grew up in a mansion. You went to private schools. You became a billionaire. And I grew up in foster care. I bounced from home to home. I had nothing. Less than nothing." Derek flinched. I know it's not fair." "Fair?" Marcus stepped closer. "Do you know what I used to dream about when I was a kid? I used to dream that my father would come back. That he would find me and take me away from all of it. I used to pray every night that someone would want me." His voice cracked. "But nobody ever came. Nobody ever wanted the kid with the gray eyes and the absent father. I had to build everything myself. Every single thing I have I earned with my own hands." Derek's own tears were falling now. "I didn't know. I swear to you I didn't know." "Would it have made a difference?" Marcus demanded. "If you had known, would you have done anything? Or would you have been just like your father? Just like every Thornton who came before you?" The question hung in the air like a blade. Derek thought about who he had been 6 months ago. The man who denied his own son. The man who threw money at Maya and told her to disappear. The man who had been exactly what Marcus was accusing him of. "I don't know," he admitted. 6 months ago I was a different person. I was cruel. I was selfish. I was everything my father raised me to be. And now I'm trying to be better. I have a son of my own, Elijah. He has our eyes. And his mother Maya, she's been teaching me what it means to be a father, a real father, not just someone who writes checks." Marcus studied him for a long moment. "I've seen the news, the scandal, the DNA test, the woman from the Bronx. That's her. That's Maya. You denied that baby too, just like Victor denied me." Derek closed his eyes. "Yes, I did. And it's the worst thing I've ever done." "So what makes you different? What makes you any better than him?" "I came back." Derek opened his eyes and met his brother's gaze. "I came back and I'm still here. I'm trying to be worthy of my son. I'm trying to break the cycle. And I'm here now standing in front of you because I want to break it with you too." Marcus was silent for a long time. His jaw worked, his hands clenched and unclenched at his sides. "What do you want from me?" he finally asked. "Nothing. I don't want anything from you. I just wanted you to know that you're not alone, that you have family, that even if you hate me, even if you never want to see me again, there's someone out there who knows you exist, who sees you." The word hit Marcus like a physical blow. sees you. His entire life he had been invisible, a statistic, a foster kid nobody cared about. And now the brother he had never known was standing in front of him, tears streaming down his face, saying he saw him. "I need time," Marcus said roughly. "I can't just forget 32 years because you showed up with an apology." "I understand. I might never forgive you, or your family." "I understand that too." Marcus walked to the garage door and looked out at the street. At the car, where Maya waited with Elijah. "Is that her, the woman?" "Yes." "And the baby?" "Your nephew, Elijah." Marcus stared at the car for a long moment. Then he turned back to Derek. "I'll think about it. That's all I can promise. I'll think about whether I want you in my life." "That's more than I deserve." Derek turned to leave. He was almost at the door when Marcus spoke again. "Derek?" He turned. "Those eyes. Our eyes. My mother used to say they were a curse. She said they marked us as Thorntons whether we wanted to be or not." Derek nodded slowly. "I used to think that too." "Do you still—" Derek thought about Elijah, about the way his son looked at him with complete trust and love. "No," he said. "Now I think they're a reminder that we carry our family's history in our blood, the good and the bad, and we get to choose what we do with it." Marcus didn't respond, but something in his expression shifted. The hardness cracked just slightly. "I'll be in touch," he said. "Maybe." Derek nodded and walked out of the garage. When he got back to the car, Maya took one look at his face and pulled him into her arms. "How did it go?" "I don't know. He's angry. He has every right to be angry. But he didn't throw me out. He said he'll think about it." Maya held him tighter. "That's something. That's more than nothing." "I told him about Elijah. He looked at the car, at you." "What did he say?" "Nothing. But I think he wanted to see. I think somewhere inside him he wants to believe that family can be something other than pain." Maya kissed his forehead. "Then we give him time, and we show him that we're different." "How?" "By being consistent, by showing up, by proving that Thorntons can change." Derek looked at Elijah sleeping peacefully in his car seat, at those gray eyes hidden behind tiny lids. "I'm going to break the cycle," he said quietly. "For Elijah, for Marcus, for everyone my family has hurt. I know you will." "How do you know?" Maya smiled. "Because you're not the man you used to be. And you're not the man your father was. You're something new, something better." Derek didn't have words for what he felt in that moment. So he just held her hand and let her believe in him, even when he couldn't believe in himself. 2 months later, Marcus came to dinner. It started with a phone call, then a coffee meeting, then a longer conversation. Slowly, painfully, the brothers began to build something that had never existed between them: trust. Marcus met Elijah for the first time on a Sunday afternoon in Maya's apartment. He stood in the doorway, uncertain, his whole body tense with the weight of 32 years of abandonment. "He looks like us," Marcus said, staring at the baby in Maya's arms. "He does." Maya walked toward him. "Do you want to hold him?" Marcus hesitated. "I've never held a baby before." Neither had Derek the first time. "You'll figure it out." She placed Elijah in his arms before he could protest. Marcus stood frozen, looking down at the tiny face, the gray eyes blinking up at him. "Hey, little man," he whispered. "I'm your Uncle Marcus." Elijah reached up and grabbed his finger, held on tight. Something in Marcus's face crumbled. The walls he had built over 3 decades, the armor he had worn against the world, all of it dissolved in the grip of a baby's hand. "I spent my whole life hating the Thorntons," he said quietly. "I blamed them for everything, every bad thing that ever happened to me." Derek stood nearby, watching his brother hold his son. "You had every right to hate us." "Maybe. But hate didn't get me anywhere. Marcus looked up. It just made me bitter. Made me push people away. Made me convince myself that I didn't need anyone. You don't have to be alone anymore, Maya said gently. You have family now, if you want it. Marcus looked at her with an expression of such vulnerability that it hurt to witness. Why would you want me? I'm nothing but a reminder of what Victor did. You're not a reminder of anything, Maya said firmly. You're Elijah's uncle. You're Derek's brother. You're your mother's son. And from what I can tell you, survived things that would have broken most people. That makes you strong. That makes you family. Marcus blinked rapidly. He looked down at Elijah again at the tiny fingers wrapped around his own. My mother used to talk about family, he said. She used to tell me that blood didn't matter as much as choice. That real family was the people who showed up for you, not the ones who shared your DNA. She sounds wise, Derek said. She was. Wiser than Victor Thornton ever deserved. Marcus took a deep breath. When he spoke again, his voice was steady. I want to try. To be part of this. I can't promise I won't be angry sometimes. I can't promise the past won't come up. But I want to try. Derek stepped forward and placed a hand on his brother's shoulder. That's all any of us can do. Try. The dinner that night was awkward and messy and wonderful. Miss Loretta came insisting on cooking everything herself. She took one look at Marcus and declared him too skinny, and spent the next 3 hours forcing food on him. Denise stopped by for dessert, sharing stories about her own complicated family that made everyone laugh. And Victoria Thornton unexpectedly sent a bouquet of flowers with a card that simply read, Family. It wasn't perfect. Nothing about their situation was perfect. But sitting around Maya's small kitchen table watching Derek and Marcus slowly learn to be brothers, watching Elijah pass from arm to arm like a treasure everyone wanted to hold. Maya felt something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. Not fragile hope. Not desperate hope. Real hope. The kind built on hard work and honesty, and the willingness to keep trying even when everything fell apart. After everyone left after Elijah was asleep and the dishes were done, Derek found Maya standing by the window looking out at the city lights. What are you thinking? He asked, wrapping his arms around her from behind. I'm thinking about how different everything is. A year ago, I was alone in a hospital room holding a baby that his father denied. I had nothing, no support, no hope, just anger and fear. And now, Maya turned in his arms to face him. Now I have everything. A family, a future, people who show up for me and for Elijah. And me. Where do I fit in this everything? Maya smiled. You know exactly where you fit. Derek's expression grew serious. Maya, I need to ask you something. Her heart skipped. What? He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. When he opened it, a ring sparkled in the dim light. Simple. Elegant. A single diamond set in a band of white gold. I know we've done everything backwards, he said. I know I was the worst version of myself when we met. I know I hurt you in ways I can never fully repair. But I'm asking you, Maya Johnson, to give me the rest of my life to keep trying. To keep being better. To keep showing up for you and for Elijah. Tears streamed down Maya's face. Derek? I love you. I should have said it sooner. I should have said it the first moment I realized it was true. But I was scared. I was so damn scared of feeling something real. You're not scared anymore. I'm terrified. He laughed through his own tears. But I'm more terrified of losing you, of losing this. I would rather face every fear I have than spend another day pretending I don't need you. Maya looked at the ring, at Derek's face, at the life they had built from the ashes of scandal and denial. Yes, she whispered. Derek blinked. Yes. Yes, I'll marry you. Yes, I'll give you the rest of our lives. Yes to all of it. He slid the ring onto her finger with shaking hands. Then he pulled her close and kissed her with everything he had. When they finally broke apart, both of them were crying. "I love you," Maya said. "I've loved you for longer than I wanted to admit. Even when I hated you, part of me knew there was something worth saving underneath all that armor." "You saw me," Derek whispered. "You saw the real me even when I was trying to hide." That's what love does. It sees. In the bedroom, Elijah stirred and let out a small cry. Both of them went to him immediately, standing side by side over his crib. "Hey, little man," Derek said softly. "Your mom just agreed to marry me. Can you believe it?" Elijah yawned and went back to sleep. Maya laughed. "I think he approves." "I hope so, because he's stuck with me forever now." "We both are." Derek looked at her with such love that it took her breath away. "Thank you," he said, "for believing in me when I didn't deserve it, for fighting for Elijah when I was too much of a coward to do it myself, for teaching me what family really means. You would have figured it out eventually." "No, I wouldn't have. I would have spent my whole life alone just like my father, just like I was raised to be. You saved me, Maya. You and Elijah. You saved me from myself." Maya reached up and touched his face. "We saved each other. That's what family does." 6 months later, they got married in Miss Loretta's church. It wasn't a grand ceremony. No press, no cameras, just the people who mattered most. Marcus stood beside Derek as his best man, still awkward but present. Victoria sat in the front row, dabbing her eyes with a silk handkerchief. Denise served as Maya's maid of honor, and Elijah, now a toddler, taking his first wobbly steps, served as ring-bearer, carried down the aisle by a beaming Miss Loretta. The church was full of people from Maya's neighborhood, co-workers from the diner, volunteers from the food pantry. The nurse named Ruby, who had told Maya about Miss Loretta in the first place. When Maya walked down the aisle in a simple white dress, Derek's tears started before she even reached him. "You're beautiful," he whispered. "You're crying." "I know. I can't help it." The ceremony was short and sweet. Traditional vows, simple rings, a kiss that made the whole church cheer. At the reception held in the church's community hall, Marcus gave a toast that silenced the room. "I spent 32 years believing I had no family," he said, his voice rough with emotion. "I spent 32 years angry at a man who didn't deserve my energy. And then 6 months ago, my brother walked into my garage and turned my whole world upside down." He looked at Derek and Maya. "I didn't trust him at first. I didn't trust any of this. I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop, for someone to prove that Thorntons couldn't change." He raised his glass. "But here's what I've learned. Blood doesn't make you family. Choice does. Derek chose to find me. Maya chose to welcome me. And this little guy," he gestured at Elijah, who was happily smashing cake with his fists. "This little guy chose to love all of us before we even figured out how to love ourselves." Marcus's voice cracked. "To Derek and Maya, may you have the family that neither of us grew up with. May you build something so strong that no scandal, no secret, no amount of Thornton baggage can tear it apart. And may Elijah grow up knowing that he is loved, that he is wanted, that he is enough. Because that's what every kid deserves. That's what Patricia Williams taught me. And that's what I'll spend the rest of my life remembering." He raised his glass higher. "To family, the real kind." Everyone drank. Maya wiped tears from her cheeks. Derek pulled his brother into a hug that neither of them wanted to end. Later that night, after all the guests had gone home, and Elijah was asleep in his crib, Derek and Maya stood on the church steps, looking up at the stars. "We did it," Maya said softly. "We did. A year ago I was terrified of you. I was terrified of everything. And now," Maya smiled, "now I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." Derek took her hand, the ring on her finger catching the moonlight. "You know what my father used to say? He used to say that love was the greatest weakness, that caring about anyone gave them power over you. And what do you say? Derek turned to face her fully. I say love is the greatest strength. I say caring about someone really caring is the only thing that makes any of this worth living. I say my father was wrong about everything. And I say I'm grateful every single day that you gave me the chance to prove it. Maya kissed him softly. You proved it a long time ago. You just didn't know it yet. They walked back inside together, hand in hand, to the life they had built from nothing but courage and hope. Behind them, the church bell chimed midnight. A new day was beginning. 3 years later, Maya stood in the backyard of their home, watching Elijah chase his baby sister around the lawn. Grace Victoria Thornton had been born 18 months after the wedding. She had Maya's dark skin and Derek's gray eyes. She was fierce and fearless, and absolutely certain that the world belonged to her. Derek sat on the porch with Marcus, the two of them laughing about something while they watched the kids play. Miss Loretta presided over the barbecue grill, refusing any help and insisting that nobody knew how to cook meat properly except her. Victoria stood nearby, elegant even in casual clothes, having long since traded her cold distance for something warmer. She visited once a month now, bearing gifts for the grandchildren and stories about her travels. She and Maya had found an unexpected friendship, bonded by their shared experience of loving complicated men. Denise was there too, along with her new husband, a quiet man who worked in education and thought Maya was some kind of superhero. The house was full of noise and laughter and life. Everything Maya had dreamed of during those dark nights in her Bronx apartment, wondering if she would ever be anything more than a scandal. Derek walked over and wrapped his arms around her from behind. What are you thinking about? Everything. How different it all is. How different I am. You're not different. You're the same woman who refused my money and told me I was a coward. You just have more people to love now. Maya laughed. I did call you a coward, didn't I? Multiple times. It was very motivating. She turned in his arms. Do you ever regret it? The way everything happened? Derek thought about the question. He thought about the hospital, the denial, the months of cruelty and fear. He thought about everything they had survived to get here. I regret hurting you, he said finally. I regret every cruel word, every moment of denial, every second that Elijah spent without a father. But I don't regret the journey, because it brought us here, to this house, to this family, to this life. That's a very evolved answer. I have a very evolved wife. Maya grinned. That you do. Elijah came running over, his gray eyes bright with excitement. Daddy, Uncle Marcus said he'll teach me to fix cars. Derek scooped him up. Did he now? He said I have good hands, like a mechanic. You have Thornton hands, Derek said, studying his son's tiny fingers. They can do anything you want them to do. Can they build spaceships? Absolutely. Can they make pancakes? The best pancakes in the world. Can they give Mommy a hug? Derek laughed. Let's find out. He lowered Elijah, who immediately threw himself at Maya, wrapping his arms around her legs with all the force his 3-year-old body could muster. Best hug ever, Maya declared. I know, Elijah said with complete confidence. I practice. He ran off to find Grace, who had discovered a butterfly and was trying to catch it with her chubby hands. Maya watched her children play in the golden afternoon light. Her husband beside her, her family around her, the life she had built with nothing but love and determination. You know what I think, she said quietly. What? I think Patricia Williams would be proud. Of Marcus. Of us. Of what this family has become. Derek nodded slowly. I think so too. And I think your mother would be proud of you. Maya felt tears prick her eyes. You think? I know. You're everything she raised you to be. Strong, brave, full of love. You took something broken and made it beautiful. We made it together. Yeah. Derek pulled her close. We did. Miss Loretta called everyone to eat. The family gathered around the big table in the backyard, passing plates and sharing stories and laughing at Marcus's terrible jokes. Maya looked around at the faces of people she loved, at the life that had risen from the ashes of scandal and rejection, at the children who would never know what it felt like to be denied. This was her legacy, not money, not status, not the Thornton name that had once seemed like a curse. Family, love, the courage to keep trying even when everything fell apart. That night, after the guests had gone and the children were asleep, Maya sat down at her kitchen table and opened the journal she had kept since Elijah was born. She turned to a fresh page and began to write. My dearest children, Elijah and Grace. By the time you read this, you'll be old enough to understand the story of how our family began. It wasn't a fairy tale. It was messy and painful and full of mistakes. Your father and I hurt each other before we learned how to love each other. We had to fight for everything we have. But that's what made it real. That's what made it ours. I want you to know that you were never mistakes. You were never inconveniences. You were the best things that ever happened to us. Every sacrifice was worth it. Every tear was worth it. Every moment of doubt was worth it. Because it led to this. To you. To our family. To a love that no scandal could destroy. Your father once told me that his family's eyes were a curse. But I think he was wrong. I think those gray eyes are a reminder that the past doesn't define us, that we get to choose who we become, that every generation has the chance to do better than the one before. You are that chance. You are that hope. You are the proof that even the most broken things can become beautiful. I love you more than words can say. And I will spend the rest of my life making sure you know it. Always and forever, Mama. Maya closed the journal and wiped her eyes. Behind her, Derek's arms wrapped around her shoulders. Writing love letters to the kids again. Always. What did you tell them? Maya smiled. The truth. That they're loved. That they're wanted. That they're everything. Derek kissed the top of her head. They are everything. You're everything. We're everything. Together. Outside, the moon rose over their home. The home they had built from nothing. The family they had created against all odds. And in the bedrooms upstairs, two children with storm-gray eyes slept peacefully, dreaming of spaceships and butterflies and a future full of possibility. Because that's what love does. It takes the broken pieces and makes them whole. It takes the denied and makes them claimed. It takes the impossible and makes it real. Maya Johnson had walked into a hospital room alone and afraid holding a baby the world said didn't belong. But she had walked out with something no one could take from her. The truth. And the truth, as Miss Loretta had always said, has a way of standing. Even when powerful men try to bury it. Even when the whole world turns its back. Even when it seems like hope is just a word for fools who don't know better. The truth stands. And so did Maya. And so did her family. And so would they for generations to come, carrying those storm-gray eyes not as a curse, but as a promise. A promise that blood doesn't determine destiny. A promise that love is stronger than fear. A promise that every child deserves to be seen, to be wanted, to be enough. That was the legacy of Maya Johnson and Derek Thornton. Not billions of dollars. Not headlines and scandals. Not the weight of the Thornton name. Just love. Just family. Just truth. And in the end, that was everything.